Alright, everybody, sounds like the raid train is starting to head my way. Let's go over to the main screen. But yeah, as a lot of you will be surprised, I've not done a early morning stream before, so I'm gonna do my best. I may have to take brief snack breaks from time to time, but all in all, we should be fine. Actually, while waiting for them to pop in, when I get one of my... yes, here it is. Background music segments on. Just for something in the background, I believe. Hey, there's the raid! Welcome, welcome, ScarletMagus. I hope you had fun with Project Zomboid. Yes, welcome back. I'm sure some of you might have even been here on my last stream, considering it was, what, 10 hours ago or so? But yeah, welcome, welcome, because it's early and I knew I would not have the energy to do anything big. We are going to be reading some Retold myths by one of my favorite Tumblr writers. Thankfully also has a AO3 page with a bunch of them. Before that, yeah, welcome raiders. I hope you have all been having fun with this weekend raid train. I saw that we beat the previous goal of 500 while I was out. So yeah, glad to see you back, and Katie. Dave Station, thank you for popping in. That's what is it, a follow? I can't friggin' read. Yep, but shit, what is that? Halastor? Thank you for joining the Tome Readers. Tonight will be this morning will be very different than my usual streams. I usually do more fantasy games, Adventure Path type stuff like Omen Road, my last stream. We're gonna keep it kind of chill and maybe a little bit saucy, depending on how some of these stories go. Because I remember there are some that can be descriptive. Oh, which reminds me, I should make sure I've got that tag on just in case Twitch starts to give a shit for some reason. Content labels. Because I think there might be, maybe not drug use, but like people are like out of it on something. Sexual themes for sure. It's Greek myths retold. There's gonna be some Zeus stuff, I'm sure. Probably profanity as well. Might as well. But yeah, without further ado. Oh right, I forgot. For some of you who may not have been here earlier, I am Lucy Ferris. You may call me Lucy. I have a throwable for any of those who are a little slim on the wallet right now. If you type !D20 in chat, it'll select one of these, shit, where's the, there, one of these punishments, and it'll say which one it is. And as you can see, we've got we forgot the marshmallows in the other room, so I'll go get that in just a sec. Yeah, no problem, enjoy your sleep, ScarletMagus, and you did a wonderful job on both your shifts. You've earned your rest. Good job. But yeah, as you can see, there are 3 different punishment things that get popped out that will force me to provide more out of my own wallet, as I do have some expendable income. If we go too high, well, it's for a good cause. But yeah, we've got 3 for making me just pop a marshmallow in my mouth, Chubby Bunny style, while I read, as well as name an NPC in my D&D campaign, as well as later on future stream, telling the story of what exactly happened with them. Book asset title. As you can see, I've got these little book 3D looking model things below my PNG. I will make them. You just give me a title and I'll come up with something. Of which someone has already got one. Aries in the last stream got one. It's a bit of a long title, but I've got some ideas for what to do with that. NPC adoption, also campaign name, but also choose their role, whether they're a shopkeeper, another adventurer, villain, be a general archetype like alchemist or henchman or something. I'll come up with something fun. Just like that. Thank you, Dave Face Station. You get to, one of the ones I just talked about, adopt an NPC. Just give me a name, like I said, a general role, doesn't matter what system you're basing it off of, I'll make it work in my campaign somehow. And, yeah, the Nat 10 is just me donating another 5. So, while you come up with that, I will very quickly step away, get that bag of marshmallows in case any of those pop up. Because I'm a fool and should have brought them the first time. I'm back. Don't have headphones on yet, but I am back. There we go. But yeah, Dave, you can, if Dave's okay to shorten your name too, you can give me an NPC name, roll for the story, and I'll take note of it. But I think without further ado, we'll get to the story. Just a quick sip of drink. There we go, and do let me know if the background music is a bit too loud. Because that's going just off a media file of a song I know is not copyright protected. I mean, if you'd like to, it doesn't have to be too in-depth, it's just a silly reward thing. I want people to put in like an hour worth of work if they don't have the time just for something silly. I would appreciate it. Oh, sorry, I just had to cough for some reason. Okay, so without further ado, ShanaStoryteller, Greek myths retold, starting with the story of Icarus. His father told him, "Do not fly too high, because the sun will melt your wings and you will fall. Do not fly too low, because the salt water will soften the wax and you will fall." He didn't listen, because he never listened. He didn't listen. If he had, well, he would have realized, no matter what, he falls. He falls. Apollo was very pretty. He kissed Icarus' skin and called him a darling boy. Soon every time sunlight hit his skin, it felt like a lover's touch. He said, come to me, and I will worship you. My days are full, busy. I will not have much time for you, but my nights are yours. Right, I almost forgot. Should have just that. I'll write that down as soon as I'm able to, Dave. Thank you for the information. Who could refuse a god? Who could have God offer to worship them when they are nothing more than an aging and adventurous child, and saying no? If he'd listened to his father, he would have known. The sun never truly sets. There is no night, only places where the sun is absent. Maybe if he'd listened to his father, he could have refused Apollo. He could have told the golden god of sunlight that he's happy where he was. He wasn't, but God was going to lie to him. It only seemed fair that Icarus didn't return. But he never listens. So Icarus flies too high, leaving his father behind. He thinks if he can fly high enough, fast enough, then Apollo will be able to catch him, pluck him from the struggles of this mortal world. But Apollo doesn't come for him, and his wings melt. He goes crashing into the sea, and he doesn't even have the time to tell his father he's sorry. He would have told his father that he was sorry. Taking a sip. Thank you, Streamlabs, as always. He doesn't die. Poseidon is powerful and curious. He considers Icarus to be a beautiful, curious thing. Icarus did not know he was beautiful. Poseidon runs powerful hands over his hips, and Icarus doesn't think Poseidon and Apollo know the same definition of beauty that he does. When he thinks of beauty, he thinks of his father's machines. Stone walls that have been smoothed down so perfectly that they almost shone silver, of shadows dancing elegantly around fire's grasp. He doesn't think he's any of these things. He doesn't know what they mean when they call him beautiful, but he doesn't think he likes it. He is tired. Poseidon is very demanding. Every time the god comes to his bed, Icarus feels like he's dying. It'd be easier if Poseidon were a worse man, but he's kind, thorough, and Icarus always ends up having been satisfied, but never really feeling satisfied. He expects Poseidon's wife to be angry with him, to hate him. He bumps into Amphitrite in the hall once. He bows low at the waist immediately. "I'm deeply sorry, my lady." He wonders if she'll kill him. He wonders if he'll care. She laughs. It sounds like calm waves lapping at a shore. She presses 2 fingers underneath his chin and forces him to rise, then gently tilts his head to the side so she can see the trail of bite marks her husband has left down his neck. "Better you than me, my dear." She pats his cheek twice and walks away. What does that even mean? He doesn't know how long he's been here. Not more than a decade, he thinks, though he hasn't aged. Nothing ever changes. Bite marks never truly fade before Poseidon adds more. Icarus waits for Poseidon to be slumbering beside him one night, before wrapping the sheet around his hips and tiptoeing out of the room. He doesn't hesitate, or stepping outside of the palace walls, and instantly he's drowning. He's so deep in the sea that it's a toss-up about what kills him first. The pressure on his tender organs, the lack of air in his lungs. Not that it truly matters. No matter what, Icarus dies. One second, I'm just gonna... Alright, big sneeze there. He wakes up. Again. "My lady," he greets, bowing before a goddess with skin the color of potting soil, and hair the richest red, like rubies or pomegranates, he finishes. And Persephone, queen of the underworld, smiles. She says, "I've had my eye on you." She says, "Amphitrite speaks well of you." She says, "I am gone 6 months out of the year. My husband gets lonely. He's dead. There's nowhere else for him to go." "Okay," he says. The snow begins to melt. Persephone leaves, and the underworld itself seems to mourn her absence. He waits tense in his room that first night, but no one comes. Nor the second night, nor the third. He can think of nothing more unpleasant than Persephone's wrath, so on the 4th night he goes to Hades' rooms. When the god answers, he bows low and says, "Your wife, the Lady Persephone, sent me." Icarus doesn't dare look up when Hades says, "My brother is quite cross with me. He came demanding you back. I was willing to hand you over, but my wife said she had use of you." He can't return to Poseidon. It's cold, dark, and makes him feel worthless. Even if Hades is a harsh lover, he's better than his brother. She wishes me to provide you company. She says you get lonely. Does she? Hades drawls, and Icarus cringes. "Boy, look at me when I'm speaking to you." So Icarus does. He has nothing perfect symmetrical beauty of Apollo, nor the wild strength and power of Poseidon. Hades has skin like bleached wood, hair the color of machine oil, with dark, expressive eyes and a nose a little too strong for his face. He looks like a person, like Icarus's father might have looked as a younger man, like Icarus might have looked if he was allowed to grow old. He looks beautiful. Come with me, he sighs. My wife wants you to keep me company, then you shall. He follows Hades around every day, as he maintains the circles of the underworld, the lost souls, attends to the gods and the other non-dead things that make their home in his domain. Icarus starts helping. Hades is without his queen, and what he would normally do with her, he now does alone. So Icarus looks over the passage logs for ferry over the river Styx, addresses the complaints that are brave enough to filter their way through the palace. When Hades looks particularly tense and lost, Icarus brings him pomegranates. Hades still doesn't sleep with him. Icarus doesn't know if he is disappointed by that or not, but he thinks he's happy here. You know, Hades says one day while they're looking over reports, they call you Thanatos, death god. Why? He demands. He's not afraid of Hades anymore. When Hades is upset, he screams and yells, and he goes and sits in the garden Persephone made for him. He doesn't lash out to hurt. Hades smiles, but doesn't answer. Icarus is there to help Persephone off the ferry. He's missed you, he says, holding out his arm for her to use as balance while she steps out of the boat. She raises an eyebrow. You know, they used to call me Kor. Stands on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek. Thank you, Thanatos. 200 years later, in the mist of summer, Icarus gathers his courage and kisses Hades while both their hands are stained with ink. Another war has made the lower levels of the underworld smell like corpse rot. Hades kisses him back. 2 months, Persephone will kiss him for the first time as he helps her out of the ferry. Sometimes when things get stressful or Hades is upset, Icarus will climb into his lap and kiss him slowly. They never sleep together, and Icarus is happy here. Okay, nice drink after that. It's a twist on a familiar story, a different lesson. The way I interpret it, it's a warning. Warning almost specifically for those who are young and told by people far too old for them that they're so mature for their age, so much more capable than their peers. Warning that love in word is different than love in action. And I quite like it, despite some of the unfortunate dips early on for young Icarus. They grow into the role, said, of Thanatos, guide of lost souls alongside Hermes. And then story 2 centered on Arachne, who is a little less known than the story of Icarus, a seamstress who gets a little too prideful for the gods, at least in the original story. Your tapestries are so fine, the merchant says in wonder. They must be blessed by the goddess Athena. Arachne tosses her head, braided hair falling over her shoulder like an obsidian waterfall. What's Athena got to do with it? My hands wove these, not hers. The merchant blanches and looks at the sky as if expecting Zeus himself to smite them for blasphemy. Personally, she thinks the King of Gods has better things to do with his time. He says weakly, I suppose. He pays her for her wares and she leaves, almost immediately bumping into a hunched old woman with gray eyes. Do you not owe Athena? Thanks for your talent, she croaks, gnarled hands curled over a cane. Arachne is not stupid, but she is foolish. They will tell tales of it. She looks into those gray eyes and declares, Athena should thank me. since my talents earn her so much praise. She pushes past her and keeps walking, knowing the goddess in human skin as she disappears into the crowd. They will tell tales of her hubris. They will all be true. Let's get a sip for this. The next day she bumps into the same old woman at the market. Everything goes downhill from there. "Oh, your place, mortal," Lena says, gray eyes narrowed. There's a crowd around them, and Arachne could save herself, could walk away unscathed. All she has to do is say her weaving is inferior to that of a goddess. She will not lie. "I do," she says coolly, "and in this matter, my place is above you." She's not honest as a virtue, but as a vice. Athena challenges her to a weaving contest. She accepts. Gods are... Sorry. Gods are not so hard to find, if you know where to look. "It's a volcano," the baker repeats, looking down at her coins as if he feels guilty for taking money from someone who's clearly not all there. She grabs her bag of sweetbreads and adds it to her pack, or swinging it over her shoulders. "Yes, I know. Half a day's walk, you said?" "A volcano," he insists, as if she'd not heard perfectly well the first dozen times. "Thank you for your help." He's shaking his head at her, but she knows what she's doing. She walks. She grows hungry. Sorry, I need to clear my nose real quick. Okay, that should do for continuing reading. She walks. She grows hungry, but does not touch the bread she paid for, and walks some more. The sun's begun to set by the time she makes it to the base of the volcano. It's tall, impossibly large, and for a moment the promise of defeat threatens to overwhelm her. But Arachne does not believe in defeat, in loss. They will tell tales of her hubris. Those tales will be true. She ties a scarf around her braids, then hikes her skirt up and ties the material so it falls only to her thighs. She fits work-roughened hands into the divots of cooled magma, begins her slow ascent. The muscles in her legs and arms begin to shake. Her hunger pains are almost as distracting. Her once white dress is dirt-smeared, torn, and sweat makes her itch as it covers her body and drips down her back. "What are you doing?" Arachne turns her head and bites back a scream, looking into one giant eye. The Cyclops holds easily to the volcano's edges, even though her hands are torn and bleeding. She swallows and says, "I heard you like honeyed bread. Is it true?" The creature tilts his head to the side, baring his long fanged teeth at her. She thinks he might be smiling. "You've been climbing for hours. What do you want?" "Is it true?" she repeats, refusing to flinch. "Yes," he says, looking at her the same way the baker had. "It's true. There's some sweetbread in my pack, baked this morning. It should still be soft." His hands are big enough, strong enough that it could probably squeeze her head like a grape. Instead, he gently undoes her pack and reaches inside. The honey buns look comically small in his large hands, and he swallows half of them in one bite. Licks his fingers clean when he's done, and his smile is just as terrifying the second time around. I am Brontis. Why are you climbing my master's volcano? Giver Arachne. I need your master's help. They tell tales of Hephaestus's ugliness. They are not true. He's got a broad, angular face and short brown hair. His eyes are like amber set into his face. His arms are huge. His rippling muscle from the waist up. His legs only to his knees, but from there down, his legs are bronze gears, golden wire. Replacement for the legs destroyed when Hera threw him from Mount Olympus. Had your look, girl? He asks, voice rough, like he's always a moment away from breaking into a coughing fit. Yes, she says, and doesn't turn away. Keeps looking. His lips quirk up at the corners, so it was the right move. The heat is even more oppressive inside the volcano. All around him, Cyclops' work, forging oddly shaped metal that she couldn't hope to understand. You've gone to an awful lot of trouble to find me, girl. What do you want? She slides her pack off her shoulders and holds it out to the god. I have a gift for your wife. I have woven her a cloak. He raises an eyebrow and doesn't reach the peg. You believe something you made with mortal hands could be worthy of the goddess of beauty? They will tell tales of her hubris. Yes, they will all be true. With a gust of wind, the oppressive heat of the volcano is swept away, leaving her chilled. In its place stands a woman, more than a woman. Aphrodite has skin like the copper of her husband's machines, and hair dark, thick, and long. Her eyes are deepest, richest brown, piercing in their intelligence. People don't tell tales of Aphrodite's cleverness. That is because people are stupid. Let us see it then, she says, reaching inside the pack and pulling the cloak from its depths. It unrolls beautifully. It's made from the finest silks and shimmers in the light from the forges. The hem of the cloak is sea foam, speaking of Aphrodite's beginning. And up along the cloak is intricate patterns it tells of her life, her marriage, and her worshippers and escapades, all with the detail of the most experienced artist and the reverence of her most devoted followers. Her lips part in surprise and she slides it on, twirling like a child. Gorgeous, Hephaestus says, though Arachne knows he does not speak of the cloak. She doesn't take offense. The goddess smiles and Arachne's heart pounds in her chest. She does her best to ignore it. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, after all. It is only expected. Very well, the goddess says. You have my attentions. To which Arachne swallows. Aphrodite's attention is a heavy thing. I have offended Athena, says. She has challenged me to a weaving contest. And their face is somber. Hephaestus rubs the edge of his sleeve between his fingers and says, Athena will lose such a contest, if judged fairly. She does not take loss well. I know. You are friendly with Hades, are you not? There are no tales of their friendship, but she's staking her life on its existence, because why wouldn't it exist? Both of them even-tempered, both shunned by Olympus, both happily married. Gods hate being made to feel lesser. It's why they say Persephone was kidnapped, why they say Aphrodite cheats with Ares. It's why Athena will crush her when Arachne wins the weaving contest. Clever girl, Hephaestus says, smiling. Aphrodite stares at her reflection in a convenient piece of polished silver. Arachne assumes Hephaestus left it lying there for that express purpose. Very well, Goddess says, not even looking at her. When Athena sends you to the underworld, we will entrench upon our uncle for your release. Turning on her heels, pointing a finger at Arachne, she blushes for no reason she can think of. In return, you will weave me a gown, one equal to my own beauty. A gown as exquisite as the goddess of beauty. An impossible task. They will tell tales of her hubris. I accept. They will all be true. Or the contest goes as expected. Athena's tapestry is lovely, but Arachne's is more lovely still. Goddess's face goes red in rage, and her gray eyes narrow. Arachne stands tall, ready to accept the death blow coming for her. The blow comes. Death does not. She is an insect. Even if she can make it back to Hephaestus's volcano, even if they can help her, they will not know it is her. She has no hope left, no course of action. She should just give up, but she doesn't believe in defeat, in loss. It was a terribly long journey on foot that first time. It was even longer this time, though now she has 8 legs instead of 2. She makes it to the volcano, creeps in between crevices, till she finds out a hollowed room, one with a sliver of sunlight and plenty of bugs to keep her fed. Athena's cruel joke of allowing her to weave will be her downfall. Her silk comes out a golden yellow color. It will look exquisite as Aphrodite's copper skin. It takes 7 years for her to complete it. She hasn't left this room in the volcano in all that time. As soon as it's done, she scurries out back toward the village. She's a large insect, but not that large. She arrives just as the sun begins to rise and leaves before the first rays have even touched the earth. Her prize tied to her back with her own silk. Arachne doesn't return to her room. Instead, she goes to the more popular parts of the volcano, hurries and runs around terrifying, stomping feet, till she finds who she's looking for, scurries up his leg and onto his shoulder. Oh. Brontes looks onto his shoulder and blinks. What on earth are you? She cautiously skitters down his arm, waiting, bends closer and lightly touches her back. Is that a piece of honey bun? Looks up at him, waiting. It's her only chance. He doesn't remember if he doesn't understand. His face slowly fills with a cautious kind of wonder. Arachne? She jumps in place, being unable to nod, and Brontes cautiously cradles her in his massive hands. Must find the master immediately. She jumps down, landing in front of him and running forward. Wait, he calls. She makes sure he's running after her before skittering back to her corner of the cave. It's almost too small for him to enter, but he squeezes inside. Oh. He stares for several moments, and Arachne climbs her web and waits. Brontes shakes himself out of his reverie and uses powerful wings to bellow, Mistress Aphrodite! There's that same breeze, and she's in the crevice with them. What's so important, Brontes, that you had to yell? Arachne sees the exact moment that the goddess sees the gown. Golden yellow, glimmering, made entirely spider silk. Beautiful, she says, reaching out a hand to brush down the bodice, and snaps up. Brontes, where's Arachne? She warms at that. And Aphrodite knew it was her weaving, even though she hasn't been seen in 7 years. They have told tales of her hubris, and they are all true. Artemis points to the web, and Aphrodite steps over and holds out her hands. Arachne crawls into the goddess's palms. Athena is more powerful than I am. Cannot undo her work, he says. But I know someone who can. They are in front of a river. A handsome young man stands there waiting with a boat. Goddess Aphrodite, he says. We weren't expecting you. Thanatos, she returns. I need to see Persephone. The man's face stays cool. For a moment, Arachne fears they will be refused, that she will be stuck in this form forever. Then he smiles and says, My lady's of course available for her favorite niece. Holds out a hand to help her onto the boat. Please, come with me. Too far. Arachne weaves a dress for Hades' wife as a thank you, and returns to her volcano. I can take you somewhere else, Aphrodite says. You don't have to hide here. Arachne pauses at her loom. She's lived in this volcano for 7 years. It is her home. You like me to leave? She asks instead. To which Aphrodite scoffs, Of course not. How could I dress myself without you here? She's wearing the spider silk dress Arachne spun for her. She's working on another for the goddess now. Aphrodite runs a gentle finger down Arachne's cheek. For a moment she forgets to breathe. You are the finest weaver to ever exist. To which she looks up at the goddess. Then as the god of crafts and goddess of beautiful things, where else would I belong besides with you and Hephaestus? To declare your company equal to that of gods is the height of arrogance and blasphemy. As the old story goes, they tell tales of her hubris. They are all true. So yeah, I especially also like this version, Arachne, or the more common Greek version. Especially just like how some of the various retellings, like the Percy Jackson series, makes Arachne out to be a villain. All she was a very skilled mortal with a bit too much pride. And pride itself should not be worthy of death or a turning point into evil. So that ending might perhaps have been avoided if she was skilled in embroidery rather than weaving. Because of course, you should never piss off someone who, for fun or profit, stabs things thousands of times to make it beautiful. So I'm going to take a quick break because I do need a bit more than just that sip there. My sinuses do not appreciate being up and about this early. Ugh, just continuously trying to drain the gunk. Alright, so next, the story of Pandora and Hermes. Pandora is made from earth, shaped by the hands of Hephaestus and made in the image of his beloved wife. Aphrodite gifts her with grace and charisma. Athena teaches her to weave and bestows cleverness upon her. She stands in front of Hermes, and God frowns and touches her with a single fingertip on her chin, moving her head one way, then the other. They'll eat you alive, he says, and she doesn't understand. She tilts her head to the side and smiles a vacant smile. All the cleverness in the world will do her no good without any context. We are the same, she says, pressing a hand to Hermes' chest. she is made from earth and has the skin to match. He is a celestial god. His skin is the same rich shade of brown. He did not ask to be born any more than his mother asked to bear him. His creation, just like hers, is at the whims of Zeus. All for some little lost fire, all because Prometheus wanted his people to be warm, and, well, he is the god of thieves, after all. So he gifts her with deceit, selfishness, with cunning. Her smile leaves her face all at once as she's filled with self-awareness. "He'll be angry with you," says. "I am not what you were supposed to make." "Gods have short memories," says, and doesn't bother to hide the contempt in his voice. "Do not worry about me, gifted child. You have larger problems than my fate." He has turned her from something pure into something more like him. Her face darkens even further as her perfectly crafted mind slots all the pieces together. And he can't help but find her lovely. It's how she was made, after all. I can't stop it, can I? Whatever they're planning for me to do? No, Jorge says. But now, you might be able to survive it. Will I want to? She asks, but he doesn't answer. She doesn't expect him to. She hides from everyone, lives in a cage at the edge of the city. The gods had called her the first woman, but that's not true. She can see. There are women. They smile and laugh with work-roughened hands. She aches to join them, but she has the beauty of a goddess. They will know. If she joins them, they will know she is not of them. It will set into motion whatever trap Zeus has planned. She's not human. Not in the same way, molded from clay by God's hands. But she is of humans, and not here to bestow upon them the harm she's destined to bring. She bathes in streams where only nymphs reside, steals into the city in the cloak of night, and pilfers from the baker's trash. They said they sent me my brother a wife, a low, amused voice says, too close behind her one night. I had not expected a beggar. She whirls around, hard breath clenched tight in front of her, an incredibly inefficient shield. Her breath catches in her throat when she sees him, dark and tall, and eyes like the night sky. He looks like Hermes. Like her. Who are you? She demands. Her in an alley corner, and if her gift's flight is not among them, she'll have to fight him to get away. She's not afraid of him. Maybe another mortal would be, cornered in the middle of the night by a man she doesn't know. But she's no normal, mortal woman. And besides, he has something comforting about him, like the hearth fire tended by Hestia. Something warm. Oh, sorry, there's a spam thing popped up. I am Prometheus, says the man. And no wonder he reminds her of fire. What do they call you? Meant to be in the deepest pits of Hades' realm, she snaps, shifts her grip on the stale bread so she can throw it out. He's the whole reason she's here to begin with, him and his thievery. He shrugs and walks close to her, watching her like one would watch a wild animal. Good. Here in this dark alley, where no one would find a cooling body until morning, it is he that should be afraid. Gods forget, he says, and Hades had grown cold in his place beneath the earth. Pauses, considers. You stole fire for Hades? No, Rex, I stole fire for the people. But Hades benefited as well. Enough that he was willing to forget the terms of my punishment. What do you want? She asks a second time. Why are you here? And he stops, too close to her. The question is, why are you here? She steps into his space now, following him as he backs away. I'm here because of you, fire stealer, because gods may forget, but they do not forgive, and I am the punishment they have unleashed upon the world. What punishment you are, he says, looking at her lips, and she forgets to hate him only long enough to kiss him. Let's go there. Hermes watches her, watches them. He doesn't know Zeus's plan, if this is part of it or not, but he watches her, and he worries. He thinks it is. He can see Aphrodite's magic clinging to Pandora, but he doesn't know why. He would go to his mother, but she's always difficult to find, Gaia preferring to live in streams and rivers rather than face the man she bore a son for. But his mother's father, on the other hand, is always in the same place. Grandfather, Hermes greets, touching lightly down onto the earth. How are you? How am I always, boy? Atlas grunts out, legs and arms straining as he holds up the sky above the earth. Tired. His lips quirk up at the corners. Some days he thinks he's more Atlas's grandson than he is Zeus's son. I need some advice, grandfather. I'm listening. So Hermes tells him everything from beginning to end because he can't figure out what his father's plan is. But Atlas might. He's known the man for longer, at least. And Atlas nods slowly and says, Bride of gods, a gifted child. I can only think of one reason to create such a child. Hermes waits. Atlas sighs and said there's a jar within Olympus that becomes sealed when it leaves the realm of the gods. After that, only a being neither mortal nor celestial may open it. But what are they planning to put inside? Hermes' demands start spiking. What are they planning to unleash upon the unsuspecting earth? His grandfather smirks. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. What are you going to put inside? Prometheus goes by Epimetheus, masquerading as his own brother. We shouldn't do this, Pandora says, even as she steps inside his home, even as he slides off her dress. His hands are covered with shiny burn scars. She wonders if he holds the fire still. Every place he touches her is white hot. Every bit of her skin that touches his feels branded. She should run. That would be the smart thing to do, and thanks to Hermes, she's a smart woman. She was made for him, she knows that now. Made to complete him. She feels a pull to him that she can't deny. She's a smart woman, and she should run. She completes him, but he won't complete her because she doesn't have any missing pieces for him to fill. You're meant to be my wife. You're mine's. Greedy eyes and greedy hands roaming over her, and this is why Hephaestus sculpted her, why Aphrodite taught her. Prometheus is not a foolish man. You should know better than to trust her, than to believe she's a gift that comes freely. But he is still a man. She is the beauty of a goddess, and he will not turn her away. She can't bring herself to make him. He is soft and hard and wonderful. Pandora curses both of them for their selfishness, even as she pulls him closer. Get mixed up there. Alright. Barely an hour in, too. Hermes goes to Nyx, the to the young woman hiding behind the skirts of the goddess of darkness and says, "Please, I need her." "She is my daughter," Nick says, arms spread as she plants herself firmly in front of him, eyes wide and pleading. "I need her." Nyx can't stop him. He knows it. But Hermes only smiles before flying away. Tonight he steals her away and Elpis clutches his shoulders but doesn't scream or cry. Holding her feels like holding sunlight, like the wind on his face when he's flying. She is exactly what he needs. "I'm sorry," he says. This is the god of thieves, but she isn't something he wanted to have to steal. She's not quite a child, but not quite grown. His skin and hair the color of honey. "It's okay," she says, voice older than the rest of her. "Mother was being selfish. I have important work to do." Blinks, opens his mouth only to close it. "You know what I need you to do?" "No," she says. "But I know what I am. That is enough." They have a wedding. Pandora tries to talk him out of it, tries to say it doesn't matter what people say, what they do, that it doesn't matter how many men come asking for her. She is his and his alone. Prometheus will not listen. Insists that she is his love and life and that she deserves the title, wife. She'd be flattered if she wasn't furious. He loves her, but he does not listen to her, and it grates. It's a lovely wedding. She's the most beautiful bride because she's the most beautiful woman. And Prometheus looks at her like she's the fire he once stole. It worries her, because that fire burned him, and she doesn't want to burn him. It worries her, because she's not a fire. She's a woman, his now wife. Some days she asks herself what she's doing here with this man. She loves him, she thinks, and he loves her, she thinks, but it never feels completely right. They receive many gifts. The oddest is a large marble jar rimmed in gold. Prometheus tries to open it and fails, muscles straining and fingers slipping. "Here," he says, frustrated, shoving the jar into her hands. She sighs. "If you cannot open it, I don't know why you'd expect me to be able to," she scolds, but to her surprise the lid comes off at her lightest touch. Her surprise turns to horror. Ugly, terrible things leap from the jar. Monstrous, horrifying things move past and around her and leap to infect everyone and everything they can find. She's too late. She knows she's too late, but she slams the lid back onto the jar. Something knocks against it, straining to get out, but whatever thing was at the bottom of the jar and remains there still. She turns to her husband, cold and afraid, wishing for that fire that he seems to always carry. Let's see, look there. But she's too late. Oh wait, no. Not too far up. Prometheus is thin and weak. Blood drips out of the corners of his mouth. Disease has ravaged him, and as being crafted by godly hands, she is safe from the horrors of the jar, but he is not. He lifts a hand, reaching for her. She leaps towards him, but she's too late. He's dead. His body hits the ground with a tremendous crash and crumples to dust. By the time Hermes gets to their home, Pandora's long gone. The jar remains, and she closed it too soon. Pulls, tugs, going so far as attempting to break the jar, but it's no use. He's a celestial being. His hand cannot open it. So he must find her. Hermes goes hurtling into the air, determined to track her down, but there's so much suffering, so much death and despair. He must find Pandora, but they're hurting. He strikes his caduceus into the ground, and both of his familiar come to life, two massive hissing snakes. "Help them," he orders before continuing his own search. He's no god of healing, but seems as if he's about to become one. Pandora stands at the cliff's edge, beautiful face twisted in grief. People are suffering, dying, the world's become a horrid, ugly thing. Her husband is dead, all because of her. Stepping off the cliff is the easiest thing she's ever done. Prince Hermes comes swooping up under her, catching him in his arms and flying her to safety. "Let me go," she howls, tears streaming. "Let me go, I want to be with Prometheus." Something feels different. Her love for him seems more like a dream than her reality. She wants it back nonetheless. Hermes dumps her on the ground. She's never seen a god angry before. She is planning to live long enough to have nightmares. She's sure this would make an appearance. "If you must," he hisses, "then you shall. But not before you open this." Drops the jar at her feet. She scrambles back from it. No, please don't make me do more. I've ruined so much already. You've ruined nothing. Open the jar. "Refuse," she says, tilting up her chin, meeting his gaze, even as her body's racked with sobs. "I'm not one of them. Not human, but I love them. I won't hurt them." Hermes can only snarls. He pushes her to the ground, cages her body beneath his own. "Trust me." "Trust you," she spits, flips them over so it's her pinning him to the ground. "It was you who cursed me most of all. I should kill you. You're not that powerful." "Dora, please. Open the jar, and if you still wish it, I will deliver you to Hades and Prometheus myself. I promise you, gifted child, just open the jar." Pandora hesitates, looking at him for signs of deceit, and finding none. She reaches for the jar. Elvis is clawing against the lid. This is what was supposed to happen. She can't help anyone from inside here. Without her, humanity is doomed, and the jar containing her opens. She pushes herself out and into the world. The first thing she sees is the famed Pandora, as beautiful as Hermes said she would be, and as miserable as Elpis had feared. "Don't cry," she says. Out from under her mother's darkness she is grown, is more woman than child. She presses her forehead to Pandora's, cups her face in her hands and says, "Do not cry, gifted child, child of gods. I am here." She's shining here on this cliff, bright and powerful as she could not be while with the goddess of darkness. She is here, but also everywhere, stretching as far as all those terrible things from the jar, filling up the world even till more of her exists than all those horrible things. Pandora stops crying and says, Oh, you were what I was missing. I didn't know. Neither of us are missing anything. Elpis, goddess of hope, says it would be so easy to shift closer and press her lips to Pandora's. This perfect woman sculpted by gods, and she can't blame Prometheus. He should have known better, but who could look at this woman and not want her? Not Elpis. A little too far. Pandora tries not to feel like a dishonest woman. If she loves her husband, or she did before she opened the jar, but Prometheus, as good as he was, treated her like a possession, a prize. It's why he insisted on a wedding they didn't need. Looking at Elpis, all she feels is possessed more thoroughly than she ever did under Prometheus's hands. I should go to my husband, she says, because although despair no longer threatens to push her down, she should still go to him. Go to Hades and bargain and argue until she gets him back. She does love him. She was made to love him. Aphrodite's magic clings to you no more, Hermes says. I'm sure you could love him. He is a good enough man. But you do not have to. Besides, you know where he is. Hades won't let him go anywhere this time. Elpis smiles, though it doesn't reach her eyes, and says, I'm here by the grace of Hermes, Pandora. I would follow in his footsteps. You would let me. And Pandora blinks, uncomprehending. Oh, she continues, I would steal you for my very own. You would let me. You love humanity, and you can help them by my side. If you want. Pandora closes the remaining space between them, kissing Elpis with gentleness she didn't know herself capable of, a gentleness her and Prometheus never shared. I love my husband, she says, but it sounds wrong, it sounds fake, and it shouldn't because she lived with him, and she loved him, didn't she? But Elpis feels like home. Touching her feels like safety, and Prometheus had always felt like danger. In the best ways, the most thrilling ways, but he never felt like a place for her to return to, a place that she belonged. Give me a chance, Elpis says, settling her hands on Pandora's hips. You can always leave to find your husband, but just not now. Not yet. Give me some time. Pandora hesitates, but her purpose is fulfilled. She has done what she was created to do. The gods of Olympus have no more use for her, and her life from this point on is her own. She was made to be Prometheus's wife. That's not what she has to be. Okay, she says. I can think of nothing else to offer her, has nothing else to offer. Luckily, it seems that's all Elpis needs, as she pulls them together again. Elpis is soft and gorgeous, and this feels completely different from all the times she'd kissed Prometheus. It feels like larger, and scarier, and more beautiful. Elpis' skin on her own doesn't feel like a brand. It feels like freedom. That's a twist on the story I would not have predicted. I remember when I first read this story, and it went to Hermes picking up the young childlike Elpis from the domain of her mother, a domain of darkness itself, squashing her, keeping her ungrown. I thought it was going to be more of a metaphor of like children bringing hope into one's life, even if the spouse you once had is no longer with you. Turning into this, I feel is a much nicer and certainly less harmful message of, hey, maybe children are what you need in your life. It's like, no, how about moving on from a unfulfilling relationship? A very small theme of a woman who was lesbian or at least bisexual, but never really had the opportunity to explore that until after the spouse moved on themselves. Like I said, ShanaStoryteller, one of my favorite writers on Tumblr, because this is what I know her best for. She actually got the Gods and Monsters, at least was it like 22, 23 of the stories, into a printed book. Sadly, did not do enough other chapters for it to, get a second volume, sadly. But it's a worthwhile buy, and I'm glad I got it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna take a big slurp here before going to the story number 4, and I think after this, we'll have a better idea how many stories I can do left before the third hour comes to a close. Okay, after this, I think we'll also skip to one of my favorite stories, the one that got me hooked on her retellings. Okay, one last sip and we'll go right into it. Okay. Artemis is born first. She's a babe for only moments, springing into gangly-limbed childhood between one breath and the next. Her mother, red-faced and sobbing, prostrate on the ground and reaching for her. "He's too big," she sobs. "He won't come out. I failed. Hera has won and I have failed." There's blood. There's too much blood. Blood that she herself is still slick with. "No," she says firmly, kneeling in between her mother's legs. "We have not failed. It takes too long. Too much blood and screaming." But hours later, Leto sleeps, exhausted and pained, but alive. Her brother does not grow as she did. She cleans him and swaddles him and holds him against her chest. There's too much intelligence for a freshly born babe in his eyes. She pets the soft, golden curls on top of his head. She looks to Leto, bloody and torn and nearly forced to die with her son inside of her. Decides that her mother's fate will never be her own. The only man she'll ever love is the one currently in her arms. Apollo grows, faster than he should, but slower than her until they match, till they are not quite adults, beautiful adolescents in a godly package. Her brother worries her. Sometimes he reminds her too much of their father. She fears for him. But she's never afraid of him, her golden twin brother, but in that regard she thinks she may be alone. He's too smart and not careful, and feels as if every beautiful thing is his to possess. The first time he forces himself on a mortal woman, she shoots a silver arrow through his shoulder. It bleeds, an arrow shot by her, more than it would if any other goddess had done it. "They are mine," she declares, standing in front of the scared girl with her torn clothes. "You will not touch what is mine." Paul says, "Very well, sister," slick with blood, and she wants to go to him to heal him and take care of him as she has their whole lives, but she stands her ground. In this, she will not be moved. He leaves, and when she turns to comfort the girl, she is already gone. Her brother doesn't touch any other unwilling women after that, although there are still plenty of willing women. Why shouldn't there be? Apollo is gorgeous and strong, brave and just when he forgets to be selfish and petty. There are men, however, who are not always so willing. Nothing so harsh as that first time with that girl, nothing that dramatic, but enough that it pains her to see the callous way her brother treats them. Artemis stays silent on that. She's not the patron god of all humanity, and she can't hoard them all. Her brother is a warrior and a poet, and harnesses his chariot to the sun so that he may bring life to all the world. She loves him, but sometimes she hates him. She's a huntress and a midwife, a bringer of life and a taker of it. There's something terrible in her power. She thinks this is what Persephone must feel like, as the goddess of spring and queen of the underworld. It's intoxicating, but is a quiet sort of power, a harder one. He is the sun and she is the moon. And there are times she fears that is all she is, a reflection of her younger brother's brightness, cursed to be nothing more than a poor imitation. She's fully grown the first time it happens, older than many cities and twice as beautiful as her brother's sunrises. She's sweat-soaked and blood-covered. but the mother and her sons sleep soundly and safely after the difficult birth. If she were to tell the other gods this, they would not believe her, but being the goddess of childbirth is her hardest job by far. Come, the sister of the mother says, a pretty young thing with large eyes and a wide mouth. Let's get you cleaned up. Artemis could clean herself up just fine, but allows the young woman to lead her to her room, to remove her blood-stained clothes and run a warm cloth over limbs that are sticky with dried sweat. The woman goes to knee before Artemis, running the cloth over her legs, and then the woman touches a place no one has ever touched. Hence the tags. Artemis jerks with surprise, looking down, her mouth agape. My lady goddess, the woman murmurs, parting her mouth and licking her lips. I would thank you for aiding my sister, if you be willing. There's low curling heat in the pit of her stomach, something fluttering high in her chest. It's something she hasn't experienced before. I am to remain a virgin, she says, blank, because many men have looked at her like this woman, and she was revolted by all of them. She's not revolted now. Virginity is a man's invention, a man's concern, my lady, the woman says dismissively, beginning to move her hands in a way that makes Artemis flush all over. There are no men here. That's the last bit of talking they do until morning. Artemis has many more eager women coming to her, offering to worship her. She accepts again and again. There's never anything more than a temporary sparks of desire. Yet she enjoys all the women who seek her out, is delighted by them, and seeks to delight them in return. She's bathing in a lake one evening, golden hair grown longer than she usually keeps it, brushing past her shoulders. She'll have to cut it soon. She ducks beneath the serene, smooth lake, and when she pops her head up, there's a sound of rustling and footsteps, then clothing being shed. There's a man dipping his toes into the lake, and Artemis rises, ready to kill him for his insolence. And she meets his scared eyes, and she's done nothing to provoke his fear, not yet. Then she has to look again, eyes raking over his naked body. This person certainly looks like a man, yet... Who are you? She demands, hands on her hips. Cypriotes, miss, the person says, bends to pick up the discarded clothes. Apologies, I did not expect anyone to be here. I'll go. Why? Artemis asks, taking guess. There's plenty of water for two women to share. She knows she's guessed right, and Cypriotes' mouth parts in surprise, then widens in a pleased grin. Thank you, lady, she says, dropping her dress back at the lake's edge and stepping into the water. Your hair's a mess, she observes. Look at the tangled bun on top of Cypriotes' head. Let me help you with that. It's okay, miss. She returns politely. Somehow this woman hasn't figured out she's a goddess yet. Artemis is in no rush to tell her. She's scared enough of her as it is. I insist, she says, swimming over, twisting Cypriotes around so her back is to Artemis. The woman's muscles are tense, and Artemis runs light fingers over the pale, crisscrossed lashing scars. Artemis is smart, so she doesn't ask the obvious, stupid question, undoes the woman's bun. Tangled, long black hair tumbles down to her hips. Oh, what a mess, she says quietly, not explaining whether she's talking about her hair or her back. But Cypriotes relaxes, tilting her head forward as Artemis gently untangles her hair until it lies smooth. And I that drink is done, sadly. Just put it there. Artemis tries, but she can't get the women from the lake out of her head. She lives alone at the edge of the village, doesn't bathe with the other women, but because they don't welcome her. They don't shun her, but they don't wash her hair or her back. It makes Artemis's blood boil. She expects better from those she has claimed as her own. The sun's just setting when her brother appears at her side, watching her watch the Prieties gather water from the well. He's not your usual type, is he? He asks, leaning against her and tangling his fingers in hers. Yes, she is. For the first time in her life, Artemis feels uncertain, but kicks at the door anyway. It opens. The wariness on Saprites' face is replaced by confusion. Hi, Artemis says. Do you like bear? The creature is slung over her shoulders. She just killed it, and it occurs to her too late that a normal woman wouldn't be able to casually hold a bear across her back. I like you, Saprites says, stepping aside to let her in. You can bring the bear if you like. She offers Artemis warm wine and insists she sits as she skins the bear, sticking chunks of it on a spit, salting the rest. This time she keeps up a steady stream of conversation, eyes warm, smile soft. Artemis wishes she could blame the wine for the heat on her cheeks. I like your shoulders, Artemis says, watching her finish up preparing the bear meat. Saprites pauses and turns to Artemis, eyebrow raised. Her dress is stained red with the bear's blood. Her silky black hair is braided to the side. Artemis wants to run her fingers through it. You do. She stands, moves slowly in case this isn't what Saprites wants. Presses her hands to her back the same way she had at the lake. Yes, they're broad, strong, like mine. Saprites turns, and Artemis trails her hands from her shoulders to her face, pressing her thumb against Saprites' bottom lip. The bear will burn, she says, eyes dark. I'll bring you another one. Artemis walking her backward until they reach the bed, till Saprites' knees hit the edge of it and she falls back, until Artemis can climb on top of her and straddle her waist. Saprites holds up a hand and Artemis captures it in her own, turns it so she can leave a butterfly kiss on each knuckle. I know who you are, Artemis, she whispers. Are you sure? No man may touch you. To which Artemis leans down, pressing more kisses across Saprites' collarbone and says, There are no men here. That's the last bit of talking they do until morning. Such a sweet story, but not the only one with that particular theme, accepting transness in a different way than actual Greek society would have. Where is the other one? Wait, is this the... There it is, Poseidon and Caeneus. Technically, I read the second part of the Caeneus story first, which did kind of spoil me on some of what happened, but like I said, this is the story that got me hooked on ShanaStoryteller as a Tumblr writer. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and pop the next drink. First one is water. Now I need something to help make sure I stay awake for the next hour and a half-ish. Hour 40, close enough. Sweet, sweet carbonation. And for anyone needing it, we'll take a short couple seconds, at least. If you've been here for a while, take some time to stretch your legs, stretch out your arms, sitting in a chair hours on end will do about as much harm as overworking. And because the streamers are passing the torch, so to speak, we've all been able to get our little naps and breaks in. Those of you loyal guests, chatters, we gladly thank all of your support, whether it's just spreading the word, lurking, helping us out like that, or actually donating some of your own money to the Transgender Law Center. Okay, I think with that, arms should be good. Just shake them out. Okay. So we skipped from Chapter 4 to Chapter 9, Poseidon and Caeneus, which I'm probably mispronouncing how Caeneus should be done, but it's a fun way for me to do it, so I'm sticking to it. Let's see. Zeus claims the sky as his domain, free and open and pure, and his it becomes. Hades goes to the underworld. It's messy and horrible and heartbreaking, but he claims it uncontested, and his it becomes. Poseidon goes to the sea, but it already has its sovereign. His first thought is that she's beautiful. Skin the color of pearls and hair the dark, rich green of seaweed. She's tall with a type of aristocratic bone structure that'd make him think her delicate if not every other aspect of her was as fearsome as Hera at her most irritable. You come to my land seeking to make it your own, she says. She's not quite walking and not quite swimming as she circles him. Who are you to rule the sea? He clears his throat, and he's a powerful god. He and his brothers are the most powerful gods that still exist on this earth. But his knees shake before her. It's not a good feeling. It's not infatuation. It's fear. I am Poseidon. She tilts her head, and her pretty blue eyes are as cold as seafloor they stand on. Goodbye, Poseidon. Perhaps your brother will be able to find what's left of your corpse in his underworld. The water whips around him, doing its best to rip him apart, forcing itself into his lungs and suffocating him. He didn't think he could drown, but might be about to be proven wrong. Then a net closes around him, pulling him up so he breaks through the surface, takes a large, grateful gulp of air. He's hauled over the side of a boat and dumped on its floor, the person who saved him wildly fighting the angry waves. You must have really pissed the lady off, a light teasing voice says. Poseidon's still coughing, his eyes watering, lungs screaming. This boat is about to capsize and they'll both die. So he doesn't get how this person can sound so lighthearted. Except they're not. Their little boat is being expertly handled against the thrashing waves. Poseidon blinks, and he's inclined to say the person sailing is a woman, considering the budding breasts and hips, but the hair is cut short, and the chitin is designed for a man. What's your name? He asks. Caeneus, his unexpected rescuer answers. It's a man's name, and Poseidon opens his mouth to question it, then closes it again. Thank you, he settles on. You saved my life. Caeneus finally steers them to land, and Poseidon dismounts to help him pull and anchor his boat to shore. Anytime, he says cheerfully. What did you do to make the lady so mad anyway? You know her? He asks, staring. This man appears to be a mere mortal, yet how could a human know that woman? He grins at Poseidon, points out to the glittering sea. We all do. She's the ocean itself, and just as powerful and unknowable. You've got to be careful not to anger her again. I don't know anyone who's survived her wrath twice. Right, Poseidon says blankly, even though that's unavoidable. He used to be the god of the sea, he has to wrest the mantle of Mark from her corpse, then so be it. Caeneus claps him on the shoulder, his work-roughed palm more comforting than anything else Poseidon has known since escaping his father's stomach. Come to mine. You look half dead. I'll make you something warm. He takes a long look at his savior. Skin a dark shade of brown, his eyes are amber in the setting sun. His black hair is cut short, and the muscles of his arms and legs shift with each moment. Very well, he answers, and is inordinately grateful that he is too cold to blush. Caeneus takes him to his home, a hastily constructed shack on the beach's edge. The wind whips through the cracks in the wood so that no matter where you stand, you're always chilled. This is the most woodwork I've ever seen, he says. Slides his hand across the wall and is completely unsurprised when it comes away with splinters. I'm a sailor, not a carpenter, Caeneus answers, intent on mixing together a bunch of ingredients Poseidon only half recognizes. It stays upright. Barely. Turns, cupping his hands against the cup that shoved at him. Caeneus doesn't ask him to leave. Instead, they squeeze into Caeneus' too small bed. Poseidon curls around the smaller man, tangling their legs and tucking Caeneus' head under his chin. You're so warm, Caeneus murmurs, half asleep already, and Poseidon's heart clenches. Make sure he's asleep when he carefully, so carefully, lowers his head and brushes his lips against Caeneus' cheek. When Poseidon wakes up, the sun is bright and Caeneus is gone. He should go marching back to the ocean, but first, he has something important to do. He's just not sure how to go about it. He can't ask Zeus. His younger brother knows plenty of war and not much else, which leaves... It's easy enough to slip into the underworld, although he regrets doing so the second he arrives. It's almost completely dark and lonely. Lost souls are immediately reaching for him, cold hands brushing against skin. What are you doing? A familiar voice demands, and Poseidon nearly wilts in relief. Hades appears at his side, guides him away from the wailing souls. It's not safe here. What's wrong with them? Poseidon asks, glancing back. His chest clenched its sympathy at their cries, even though he knows there's nothing he can do for them. He slipped through the realm, and in front of a partially built stone castle. The goddess Hecate guides the construction with her magic, her visage that of a young child since it's still morning in the mortal realm. Hades sits on the ground and the skin beneath his eyes is dark and bruised. He looks like a strong wind would blow him over. Nothing, everything, I don't know. I'm working on it. Why are you here? I don't suppose you know how to build a house? He asks, though he doesn't expect much. Seems he's not the only one having trouble claiming authority over his domain. His brother Hades laughs, eyes crinkling at the corners. You've come to the wrong sibling, little brother. Oh, that's true. Do you think she'll help me? Oh yes, Hades answers, lips still twitching. Now leave me to my anarchy. I have more than enough trouble to deal with without you causing more. Which is fair enough. Poseidon heads to Olympus next, careful to peer around corners to avoid Zeus and Hera. Their marble palace is already constructed. He tamps down the bitterness that they rule unchallenged. In the center of the throne room, next to a roaring fire, sits Hestia. Sister, he greets, tentative. I need help building a home. She looks from her fire to him. She smiles. He feels all his tension drained from his shoulders. Of course, little brother. If it is help you require, then it is help you shall have. She tears apart the shack with a flick of her hands, says, I'll ask Demeter for some better wood, and is gone back in the blink of an eye. They build it by hand after that. Hestia's soft voice guides him when he hesitates or stumbles. They're gods, so it doesn't take too long. When they finish, they have a small, beautiful house right on the edge of a beach. One with a large bed and lots of light. One with a fire pit in the center that has Hestia's name inscribed in the bottom, so that she may look over this home she helped build. Thank you, Poseidon says, the sun beginning to set, as she winks at him. Anytime, little brother. And is gone in the next moment. He hopes Caeneus likes it. Unfortunately, he won't be able to stick around to find out. He has a queen to challenge. There we go. He finds her again, in her palace of polished rock at the bottom of the sea. There'll be no helpful sailor to save you this time, she says, head tilted to the side. Already the water's colder around him, the current stronger. He swallows. I am Poseidon. I'm to be the god of the sea. She glances over him, unimpressed. Why do you want it so badly? There's nothing about you that is of the sea. I am a god, he answers blankly. He doesn't say that it was this or the underworld, and that wasn't a mess he was willing to take on. She snorts, flicker of amusement appearing in her otherwise emotionless gaze. You are too soft and too kind to ever be a master of the sea. He opens his mouth, but she raises a hand and closes it. He takes slow, deliberate steps towards him. He swallows and doesn't look away. I will make you a bargain, Poseidon, god of nothing. I'm listening, he answers, and tries not to flinch when she places a cold hand against his chest. I am Amphitrite, sister of Gaia, and I have lived long before your conception, just as I will live long after your death. Poseidon pales, and oh, he had no idea the class being he was dealing with here. This is very, very bad. If you wish to rule the sea, then you must rule me. Lady, a thousand apologies. I did not know. Silence. His mouth clicks shut. I was born as I am. I will die that way. But I need not live this way. She doesn't understand, and she must see that, because she touches her own chest and says, I have a heart as cold and dark as the oceans I bore. I will give it to you. And I and the sea be yours to command. But I require your heart in return, so that I may know kindness and softness. He doesn't know what to say. Hearts aren't things to be given away lightly. But he must become Lord of the Sea. Take time, if you must, she says, the same cold amusement in her eyes. I am as immovable as the ocean. I will be here when you make up your mind. He's propelled up and onto the shore, far more gently, this time around. Poseidon! He barely turns before body slams into him, lips pressed against his. Caeneus pins his wrist to the sand, kisses him long and slow, and more than distract enough to make him forget about the offer from the personification of the sea itself. You built me a house, he murmurs. Built me a house. Do you like it? He asks, dazed. Caeneus grins above him, wicked and beautiful. Rolls his hips into Poseidon's. Come with me, and I'll show you how much I like it. Poseidon means to go back to the sea, to Amphitrite. Every morning, Caeneus kisses him good morning. He learns of the sea, though. He goes out with Caeneus each day and learns its motions and its temper, the taste and smell of it. Learns how to understand it and learns how completely and totally uncaring it is. How the coldness of its depth is the totality of it. The sea is not kind. It has no sympathy, no love, no capacity for such small things as forgiveness or mercy. He means to return to her. It becomes harder and harder every day. Days turn to weeks, turn to months. He and Caeneus grow closer and closer. And Poseidon has no idea how he's supposed to turn his heart over to Amphitrite when it's now held by a mortal with amber eyes who leaves mouth-shaped bruises all along Poseidon's collarbones. Poseidon, Caeneus says, quiet in the oppressive stillness of the night, head on his chest and curled into his side. The moon is large and high, and pools silver on their bedroom floor. You're a god, right? I am, Poseidon says, amused. Caeneus knows what he is, but this is the first time he's mentioned it. Caeneus pushes himself up so he can look down at him, and Poseidon reaches up to cup his face. Caeneus leans into it, covering his hand with his own. Could you make me into a man? You are a man, he says, automatically. Caeneus rolls his eyes and pulls himself up so he can swing his leg over Poseidon, straddling him. You know what I mean. Poseidon shifts enough that both their breaths hitch. He says low, no, I'm sorry, I'm not... I have no domain. My powers are limited. He could maybe do it, but transformation is not among his natural talents, and Caeneus is too precious to risk unless he is certain. He's disappointed, but smiles through it, leaning down to kiss him. It's all right. It's not. If Poseidon were the god of the sea in more than name, if he had taken Amphitrite's offer, he would be able to transform his lover like he desires. He's a god, brother of Zeus, and he can't give Caeneus the one thing he's ever asked of him. What good is he? What good is any of his power if he can't make the people he loves happy? He flips Caeneus over, kisses his neck, so his lover won't see the self-hatred that's plain on his face. Poseidon sneaks away in the middle of the night, presses a soft kiss to his sleeping lover's slack mouth, and enters the ocean. You've decided then, she asks, head tilted to the side. I will not be a loyal husband, he declares, back straight. I love Caeneus. And she laughs. For the first time, he's not afraid of her. Do with your mortals what you wish. It's no concern of mine. Okay, he says, steeling himself. Okay, I accept your offer, Amphitrite, sister of Gaia. She holds out her hand, nails more like claws, tears open her own chest without flinching. Her blood is slick and dark as it pours from her, swirling in the water around them. She pulls a dark, round thing from her chest and holds it out to him. He looks down his chest, and he's not sure if he can do what she has done. He would feel foolish asking for a knife. She steps forward and places her hand with its claws against his chest, slippery and warm with blood, and cuts open his chest for him. It's excruciating. His knees buckle against the pain of it. Amphitrite holds him up and waits. She can't do this part. It has to be him. He reaches inside his chest, pulls out his heart beating and warm. Clumsily places it in her chest. It's startlingly, violently red against the dark green color of the rest of the inside of her. She does the same, slipping her own heart to his chest. Their skin heals over instantly. Amphitrite's mouth drops open, cheeks flush pink. She smiles, small and soft. The first time she looks happy. Her heart on his chest, though, cold as ice, and its chill suffuses his body, edging out to fill him entirely. He can feel the ocean now, all of its spread across the globe, the tides and the creatures that reside in it, its plants and animals and nymphs. It's so much, he says, and surprised at the sound of his own voice, at its curtness. You feel only a part of it, she says, stepping forward. It is a force too powerful for a god to control. I am a force too powerful for a god to control. However, you hold my heart. As I will now obey you, so will the sea. You could overpower me, he says clinically, knows the power she wields by what he can't feel, rather than what he can. She presses a hand to his chest, and they both startle. She's warm now. She wasn't warm before. Or perhaps he has simply grown colder. I could, she says, but I will not. He has no reason to trust her, but he's painfully aware that he doesn't have a choice in the matter. I'm going to Caeneus, he says. A sense of unease grows within him. Even the shape of his lover's name in his mouth doesn't feel the same anymore. Do as you wish, husband. She turns from him, going deeper into their palace. This time, he uses his own powers of the sea to push himself to the surface. It's not as satisfying as he thought it'd be. Top to chapter select up there. The second part, the story of Caeneus. It should about round out the second to 3 hours, at which point we'll take a very brief break. Ooh, maybe watch a couple of Greek-inspired videos on YouTube, kind of fit this theme. Okay, bigger sip now. Okay. So the last one was chapter 9, now we're at chapter 12, the story of Amphitrite and Caeneus. Caeneus has only ever had 2 loves in his life. First is the sea. He's loved her his whole life, heard her siren song from the time he had long curly hair, still tolerated being put in dresses and called a girl. He loves the sea like his parents go to temple, in an unmovable and inexplicable way that he no longer questions. Second is Poseidon. Foolish, but so achingly kind. He's a man who professes his wish to master the sea without ever really understanding it. Caeneus smiles and kisses the stress lines from his brow, but does not worry. The sea has never loved him back, and it never will. She has power in coldness and loss, and her beauty is in her tragedy. Beside his warmth and thoughtfulness and strong hands on his hips, he is nothing like the sea. He will never rule it. Caeneus knows this. He's relieved by it. Poseidon loves him back. Poseidon is not the sea. Then he wakes up to his lover's lips on his neck, cold enough that flinches away from the sensation, and for a terrifying moment he doesn't recognize the person touching him as the man he loves. I can do it now, he whispers. Cool fingers splay against his waist. I can make you the man you want to be. Caeneus wants the body that men usually have, wants people to stop looking at him and seeing a woman. If Poseidon had asked, he would have told him. Caeneus would choose his lover over a new body, would rather live as he does now than have Poseidon harm him for this benefit. But he did not ask. So Caeneus closes his eyes and accepts the gift his lover is so eager to give him. Amphitrite has never had a heart before. She was the sea, and what she desired she took. Men, women she wanted, and she had, and then she moved on. But the heart in her chest is softer, warmer. Turns her pearl-hued skin pink, makes her swim to the surface to watch the sunset, makes something like empathy stir inside her when for all she had was selfishness. The heart in her chest is in love, and she thought it was something she could control, something she could stop. It's not. It will be one day when she masters this heart in her chest, but not yet. She spends hours following Caeneus as he sails her seas, guides fish into his net, and feels her borrowed heart beat that much faster whenever he peers into the ocean and she catches sight of his gorgeous amber eyes. So she says to Poseidon, "You spend too much time on the shore for a god of the sea." He glances at her, and his eyes are green just like hers now, are cold and uncaring, just like hers used to be. She wonders what her eyes look like now. Caeneus is on the shore. "Bring him if you're so concerned with your mortal," she says, focused on weaving shells into her hair and giving the impression that she couldn't care less what he does with his mortal plaything. The palace is big enough. He stops and turns to her, eyebrow raised. "You do not mind me bringing him here?" "Do with your mortal as you wish," she repeats, stamps down on the trembling joy in her chest. "It's no concern of mine." Caeneus doesn't know how to love a god of the sea. He knew how to love Poseidon, take him onto the water to watch the sunrise, feed him warm, sweet drinks, let him curl around him at night and listen to his stories of his siblings, of impossible gods who do impossible things. But now he sits in a palace underwater, his own room, and the freedom to see the other side of the ocean he loves so dearly. There are no sunsets here, no cocoa to barter for, and Poseidon doesn't tell him stories anymore. Poseidon still loves him, kisses him, holds his hips when they sleep together, and keeps him by his side while he crosses the sea, gains more and more control over this domain that he now commands. Poseidon still loves him, he tells himself, and he itches to return to the surface and the home Poseidon built for him, and the life he built for himself. He didn't want to be a consort of the king of the sea. He just wanted to be Caeneus, a man who loved a man and was loved in return. A man who loved the sea, even though it would never love him back. And the sea will never love him back. He's known that since he was a child, so the real question is, how much of the Poseidon he knew is left? How much of how much of him the depths of the ocean? There's a hurricane that requires her husband's attention. And even he is not so foolish as to bring his lover to a place as dangerous as that. Which means it's the perfect time for her to run into him in the interior dark gardens, as he stares up through the iridescent seaweed to the rays of sunlight that just manage to penetrate the water. "Do you miss him?" she asks him. He's startled, swinging around to face her and stumbling away. "My lady," he says, falls to his knees before her, bowing his head. It's what she expects of all mortals, but not from him, never from him. The heart in her chest loves him, and if it's not her heart, well, the rest of her doesn't know the difference. 1,000 apologies. You are welcome here, she says, and smiles. She's never smiled quite like this before. She's never felt quite like this before. Fond and fluttery, and so painfully eager that it would be embarrassing if she ever dared articulate it. It's a wonder Poseidon managed to get anything done at all if this is what he had on his chest. He looks up, hesitant, and she holds out her hand. Caeneus takes it, and she pulls him to his feet. Pulls him closer until they're nearly touching. He's forced to look up into her eyes or be stuck staring at her chin. He's warmer than her. She can feel the heat pouring off him in waves, and she wants him to hold her in his arms so she can languish against him like she would a sun-warmed rock. Before she had a heart, she took who and what she wanted, when she wanted. Now she has a heart. She takes his hand in both of hers and says, "Would you like to visit the surface? I can take you, bring you back before my husband returns." He's hesitant, as he's afraid of her. Caeneus will never love her, because although she holds the heart he loves, she's not the person the heart belongs to. Not that he knows any of that. Not that anyone will ever know the details of her and Poseidon's arrangement. But she doesn't want Caeneus to be afraid of her. She wants him to smile at her like she is a sunrise. "Yes, please," he decides on finally. She stands and watches as he walks through his home, as he touches the hearth and looks longingly at the bed, as he stands in the small cottage that he clearly prefers over her palace, over all the riches and adoration that comes with being consort to the sea. Caeneus is a simple man whose heart loves with a simple love. He's a man whose heart loves someone who now has no heart, and Amphitrite can't bring herself to tell him. She's the one who took it away, and she won't give it back. She likes having a heart, and one day she will need to return it, but not now. Not yet. Not for a long, long time. Another big sip here. Caeneus lies beside Poseidon, curled up so his head rests on the god's outflung arm, and he can watch his chest rise and fall as he sleeps. There are bruises on Caeneus' hips, down his chest, bite marks on his shoulder and up his neck. It's not the first time his lover has been rough with him. He doesn't mind. Like that Poseidon doesn't touch him, that he's afraid he'll break. Likes that when he's rough, he's careful enough with his strength not to ever cross the line from bruising to breaking. It's different than it used to be. It's been different for a long time, ever since Poseidon somehow convinced the lady to hand over her title as monarch, to share her power with him for no reason that Caeneus could see. It's not love between them, because the sea does not love. But she got something out of it, something valuable enough to bargain away part of her power, and as soon as she did, the man Caeneus loves ceased to exist. He slides out of bed and angrily rubs at his eyes. He can't do this anymore. Can't sleep and live with this man who has his lover's face, memories, and nothing else. He knows this palace well, and everyone else knows him too. The servants don't question him, only offer shallow bows before hurrying out of his way. He's a fisherman who lives on the outskirts of society. He's not any sort of person that people are meant to bow to. He stands in front of an ornate set of carved doors, the beautiful shimmering inside of a mussel shell of impossible size. 2 guards stand at each door, but neither move to stop him as he pushes it open and slips inside. "Lady," he whispers. Large bioluminescent carvings flare to life all across the room, bathing them in soft golden green light. Amphitrite pulls herself out of bed, green hair loose around her and the rest of her on display. Pale and flawless, as perfect an example of a beautiful woman as Caeneus has ever seen, and he averts his gaze. Lady! So modest, she teases. And when he glances over, she's in a simple white robe, pulling her hair up behind her. She looks vulnerable like this, almost like his mother did when she would rouse him and his father from sleep in the darkness of early morning so they could catch the fish while they were still sleeping. What's going on, Caeneus? I thought my husband had exclusive rights to your nights. She winks and he forces a smile. He walks over to her, takes her hands in his because he knows she likes how warm he runs compared to her. Her smile slips off her face. Please, he whispers. Poseidon is different than he once was, and I want to know why. Please. She shouldn't tell him. But the heart in her chest loves him, and she loves him too. Thinks she would even without Poseidon's heart influencing her. So she tells him. When he starts crying, she brushes away his tears. He doesn't stop her. He'll never love you like he once did, she tells him. It's not that he doesn't want to, he just can't. The sea doesn't love you back, he says, because he knows, because he's a skilled sailor, because he's one of the people who has worshipped her his whole life without ever expecting anything back. Because that's what an ocean gives back. Nothing at all. Can I give you my heart? Excuse me? Let me give you my heart, he pleads, so that I may hold Poseidon's in my chest. You can have mine. I know I'm only mortal. You're all mortal to me, she says. It's 100 years, 1,000, 10,000, what does it matter? She and Gaia were around long before gods and humans. They'll be around long after them. If I give you Poseidon's heart, you will become a god. He pales and flinches away from her. He's not in this for power. It was never about power to him. It was always about love. Lady, I'm not trying to... I don't want that. If you become a god, she continues, because she loves him, that means she wants him to be happy, even at her own expense. You will be alive when the time comes for me to reclaim my title of monarch. One day I will take back my heart from Poseidon, and reclaim the cold, black thing in his chest as my own. When I do, he will no longer be master of the sea. When I do, you can give him back his heart. He will love you as he loved you before, as he will always love you. I'm just gonna do that to mark my place. Nary care. Congratulations on being awake now. Probably a little bit early, because I thought the next one of the schedule was Ghoulie, was it not? Or is this particular story somehow waking you up in a very romantic sense? But also congratulations, because didn't you... Fuck, you had the midnight shift, at least for my time zone. So, you know, good on you for being able to still be awake this many hours after. Okay, that's a good break point for just a big slurp, and then I'll wrap up this story. And I'll swap to some wonderful little Odyssey-inspired music. Caeneus has a hand over his chest, and there's so much shining in his eyes that it's almost painful to look at. Please, lady, please. I love him. Let me carry his heart. Let me have him back once you are done. I will wait. It will be a long time, she answers honestly. Empires will rise and fall before I'm willing to give this up. Before Poseidon will be willing to give up his power over the sea. I will wait, Caeneus repeats. I love him. If you have my heart, maybe you will grow to love him too. If you have my heart, you will protect him. You will keep him safe. Amphitrite loves Caeneus, and Caeneus loves Poseidon. Poseidon is incapable of loving anyone at all. Very well, she whispers. A heart is a heart. And just like Poseidon, she's unable to deny Caeneus anything. She breaks open her chest and takes out the warm, beating heart of Poseidon. Slits open Caeneus' chest for him, holds him upright while struggles to take out his heart, clumsily places it into her chest. She heals over instantly, and nestles Poseidon's heart in Caeneus' ribcage. He too heals over. His eyes flash with power as the heart settles inside of him. Caeneus becomes so much more than a mortal man in that moment. His heart doesn't feel too different. She still loves Caeneus because she's capable of loving, and he is worthy of it. Go, she says. Say your goodbyes and leave. If you stay, he'll just continue hurting you. In a few thousand years, he'll hate himself for it. Leave now, and spare both of you that pain. He leans forward and cups her face in his hands, kissing her on each cheek. Thank you. He breathes, then he's gone. Let's see, need to be awake for morning response. Oh, right, yeah, you've got a trip or something to do today. Best of luck. Drive safe if you're the driver. And if you're not the driver, have fun choosing the music selection, as the co-pilot has the right to. Caeneus can feel the power of a god flowing into him, but he doesn't care about that. The only reason he's glad he's a god now is so he'll live long enough to get Poseidon back, to get the Poseidon who loves him back. He goes back to where Poseidon is sleeping, takes a long, careful look. It'll be a long time before he sees this man again. He kisses him on the lips softly, carefully, the way Poseidon first kissed him when he thought he was sleeping. Then he leaves, stepping outside the palace and using his newly gained powers to bring himself to the shore. Poseidon is furious, but Amphitrite won't budge. It's only that Caeneus is left. Throws a temper, and half the palace is lost in the aftermath. But she does not care. She doesn't tell him that she no longer carries his heart. It doesn't matter. Caeneus' heart beats in her chest. She sits on her throne amongst the rubble, does nothing more than sigh at the way he threatens to tear the world apart, looking for his lover. It will pass. The depth and coldness of the sea is unable to sustain such fits of wild passion. Years passed. Rumors reach them of a sea god, one who is known for rescuing sailors and fishermen from storms, one who they say used to be a mortal fisherman themselves. They call him Glaucus, and say that he swallowed a magical herb to become a god. She smiles when she hears these rumors, and thankfully, Poseidon has long given up trying to get her to explain herself. The rumors are only half right, but she likes hearing them nonetheless. It comforts her to hear that Caeneus is well. There we go. We're going to get the next chapter in place before swapping over to the brief Odyssey music ensemble. Where is... Continue this story... No, we'll do Where Is... God, I know there's the story here. Is it not? Oh, it's actually literally the one right after here. That's why I didn't see it. I thought it was further along than this. The next story will be The Gods Are Dead, but like I said, we're going to take a break from that. We're not going to listen to Wizard Disco. Is this going to change anything? Nope, not really. Okay. So I've got to squish the screen to make sure I can actually read well. Let's see. I'm blanking on the name of the song now that I'm trying to look it up. what's an animatic version? Wait a second, what if I do it in the history thing? Is that gonna... Animatic... Nope. None of those are what I'm looking... Okay. Okay, Epic the Musical, that's it. It's not the My Goodbye, though, but hopefully this will get us ones I'm looking for. Let's see. This particular version I want to do, but first I need song name. Where is it? It's not no longer you, it's... Okay, Ruthlessness is the second one. Maybe related video, come on. Save me related video. Here it is, keep your friends close. So that's not the version I'm looking for, so... Keep your friends... There it is. There it is. For some reason the design on Aeolus, this one, is a lot nicer to me. I do suggest anyone who's not seen the Epic the Musical animatics or even heard of it, go to it. They are great songs inspired by the Odyssey. Oh. Just noticed I didn't have desktop audio. In case any like alerts came up, so that would be why.
Great wind god Aeolus, I don't know if you know this, but our path to home is blocked by an impenetrable storm. I ask for your assistance so we at last can go the distance. Can you cast the perfect winds for us and aid our journey home?
Ha ha ha! I am the wind, twisting and turning. I give the fire enough to stay burning. Let's play a game.
A game?
That's what I'm serving, and if you win, you will get what you're yearning.
Deal.
Take a look right here at this bag. It has the winds of the storm all trapped. All you gotta do is not open this bag.
Sounds too easy, what's the catch?
Ha ha ha! Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Never really know who you trust.
If they wanna get the bag open, you gotta say no, sir.
Sometimes killing is the must.
What?
Cause the end always justifies the means.
Friends turn to foes in rivalry, so
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
never really know who you can trust. Never really know who you can trust.
Captain, what's happening? What's trapped in that bag? Something dangerous, friends, we mustn't lag.
It's treasure!
What?
Bye-bye.
Open the bag! Let's see what you got. No, do not! Everybody listen closely. See how this bag is closed? That's how it's supposed to be. This bag has the storm inside. We cannot let the treasure rumor fly. We'll try.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Never really know who you can
Never
trust.
really
Now
know
I
who
wanna
you
get
can
the
trust.
bag open so they can have closure.
Sometimes sneaking is a must.
Sometimes
Cause the end always justifies the means.
Everything's changed since polity, so
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
never really know who you can trust.
never really know who you can trust.
For 9 days I've stayed wide awake, trying to make it home with no storm or tidal wave. I remain unopposed, the bag is still closed, and I'm getting closer to you. I can't wait to make some new memories. Time for me to be the father I never was. Just keep your eyes open. Why are my eyes and my heart and my soul so heavy?
Just keep your eyes open.
I keep on trying to embrace you both. Why won't you let me?
Just keep your eyes open.
So much has changed.
Wake up! Odysseus, they're opening the bag! Wake up!
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Never really know who you can trust.
Never really know who you can trust.
Where's the storm taking us?
I said to keep the bag closed, but you weren't compliant. If I had to guess, you're headed to the land of the giants.
Help me close the bag! But sir, it's too late! We can save whatever wind is left to use another day! Come on! Odysseus of Ithaca! Do you know who I am?
Yeah, this song goes so seamlessly into ruthlessness, but first I want to go over the segments of the song I especially liked. Well, no, the animatic in particular. Let's see. Where is right here? So here, Aeolus looks so goofy, childish, silly, and especially the eyes, for some reason, the eyes feel like they just change tonally after, I believe it's this moment. Even though it's closed in this, and then next shit should be right here. I've gone like frame by frame, try to like check colors. I've even done screenshots to compare. The eyes are the same color as they were before, but for some reason from here on in, the animatic, they just feel more aggressive. Like indirectly scheming. That's probably better word, scheming. Like they knew exactly what they were doing. The temptation of greed and curiosity combined would, well, doom Odysseus to failure just as soon as he gets the sleep, and then it does in fact happen. Where is it? Right here. With the two who were suspicious after the "it's treasure" and they wanted to check it, being the ones who opened the bag. They carried over that feeling incredibly well, and they also did. I like this effect with Aeolus themselves appearing and the big breathe in, blow, which I feel was inspired from. I think it's like a Renaissance era art showing Aeolus, or at least some deities and spirits of the wind doing that. Let's see, cheek blow in from right there, almost there. Like that pose in particular, I know I saw them like before I paid attention to names, but like they captured the energy perfectly, the flashing colors to help just support that energy. They did incredibly well. Now back to ruthlessness. Like I said, timeline-wise, looks like it goes directly from that last song to here. Gigi did incredibly well on both of these.
Poseidon. In all my years of living, it isn't very often that I get pissed off. I try to chill with the waves, but damn, you crossed the line. I've been so gracious, and yet you hurt the son of mine. That's right, the Cyclops you made blind is mine. No. I'm left without a choice and without a doubt. Yes, the battle wolves are swimming with the shark now. I gotta make you bleed, I need to see you drown. But before you go, I need to make you learn how ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. You are the worst kind of good, 'cause you're not even great. A Greek who reeks of false righteousness, that's what I hate. 'Cause you fight to save lives, but won't kill and don't get the job done. I mean, you totally could have avoided all this had you just killed my son. But no, you are far too nice. Mercy has a price. It's the final crack, we're about to break the ice now. You reveal your name, then you let him live. Unlike you, I got no mercy left to give. 'Cause ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Ourselves. And now it is finally time to say goodbye. Today you die, unless of course you apologize for my son's pain and all his cries. Poseidon, we meant no harm. We only hurt him to disarm him. We took no pleasure in his pain. We only wanted to escape. The line between naivety and hopefulness is almost invisible, so close your hearts. The world is dark and ruthlessness is die. What have you done? When does a ripple become a tidal wave? 43 left under your command. When does a man become a monster? I am your darkest moment. The monster that always draws near. Any last words? All I gotta do is open this bag. What? Remember me.
Another banger by Gigi doing this. Their epic musical in Magna. What was the? I always misremember. Jorge Rivera-Herrans. Okay, I always misremember how that name goes. But yeah, great work on both of them. Him for working on this passion project for years. I know it's like 2 or 3 years ago I started seeing these songs coming on TikTok, and they just production value's gotten better, and I believe there's actual official releases now. Let's see. Got a little time for me to cover voice enough for doing another read. Let's see. AppleMusical.com. Where? Come on, where to say? There's 4 songs completely sung through, built over years, getting other TikTok artists, helping them build it up. God, it concept album incredibly well. Just all the work that has come through the community, the art, the animatics, people have done great. But yeah, definitely check them out if you are not familiar with the Epic the Musical stuff at all. Oh, wait, that's a new tab. Now, this is actually not my favorite version of the Ruthlessness one. There's one that depicts Poseidon differently. Here it is. In Flamia. I'm just going to skip to those relevant parts. Here it is. Yeah, this little moment would be transforms and jumps off.
No. I'm left without a choice and without a doubt. Yes, the back of us is
just a shadowy, drippy silhouette coming off underneath this horse. Besides, also got of horses.
I need to make you learn how ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. Ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves.
I just love that drawing on the design, because obviously fish, or kind of more that Imperial King look, like Gigi did. It's very good for Poseidon, but it's also ties into this with the storm actually destroying the boat design they chose. Ties into the shape of a wave. I liked it. Yeah, it's just incredible, especially right here. The teeth of that horse-like shape he had being the swell of the waves. Heck, being the start, just there is there. Just crashing over them. It is inspired, I think worked incredibly well for this take on Poseidon. And also just, let's see. Here he is there. This one, like pretty much all the versions of him, just humanoid form staying on deck. He also, the hair looks like it's slick, wet, like when you come out of a shower. It's just larger clumps rather than the thin strands skewed all over. Ugh, beautiful. Let's see. The other one I wanted to show here. Get in the water, there it is. Which is supposed to come towards the end of the Odyssey. Time to strike.
When you're home so close and you've reached your coast, that's when our paths collide. I've got a reputation, I've got a name to uphold, so I can't go letting you walk, or else the world forgets I'm cold. Now get in the water. Get in the water. Or I'll raise the tide so high, all of Ithaca will die. Get in the water. Wait. Get in the water. Stop this, please. I'll make tidal waves so profound, both your wife and your son will drown. No! Get in the water! Get in the water! Don't mistake my threats for love. You have lived more than enough. Get in the water! Get in the water! I'll take your son and gouge his eyes. That is unless you choose to die. Get in the water!
God, just he has such a wonderful singing voice. Yeah, Jorge, fuck, I got the full name. Rivera-Herrans. Yeah, he is the voice of Poseidon and a few other characters in the songs, I believe, and it's just, ugh, beautifully done. Let's see if we can't go to one of the older versions of it. Not Ruthlessness. Of Get in the Water. I think it was. So. That should be enough to find the original TikTok. It's not Monster. Oh, wait. It's probably because I still have animatic there, right? Yep. Here it is. TikTok, and this will be the last one if we're going to the story. Sorry, back to more stories. Where is... Oh. Come on. Dang, I don't think of... It'll be easier to find on TikTok. Not that I ever made a account so I could save shit. What if I put his name? I think they were all shorts early on. Can I? There's one where he's like in the water on the beach. Why am I doing it like this? There's a search thing, right? Yeah. Here it is.
I've been waiting for this moment, for the perfect time to strike. When you're home so close and you've reached your coast,
That's when our paths collide.
I've got a reputation, I've got a name to uphold, so I can't go letting you walk, or else the world forgets I'm cold. Now get in the water. Get in the water. Or I'll raise the tide so high, all of Ithaca will die. Get in the water. Wait. Get in the water. Stop this, please. I'll make tidal waves so profound, both your wife and your son will drown. No!
Cue the extra instruments. Okay, he got such a great person. Can't wait to see what project he comes up with after Epic the Musical has proven his skills. But alright. The gods are dead. Because similar to the Nordic pantheon having their Ragnarok, ShanaStoryteller got inspired to do a little what comes after the gods. As those stories with Amphitrite hinted at, gods, while long-lived, especially compared to mortals, they're not eternal. Titans, such as herself, Gaia, they're eternal, will far outlive the deities that come after them, but yeah, it's... I just like how they did it. Time passes. The world changes, temples fall. People now speak their names as if they are fairy tales. The gods are dead. Apollo's chariot lies broken and forgotten in the ruins of a city no one knows the name of anymore. He watches the sun crawl across the sky of its own volition, without him to push it forward. Do you miss it? Artemis asks him, appearing by his side. They stand at the top of a sparkling glass building, almost the same as ever. She walks among the mortals more than he ever does. She always has. And she's dressed like one of them. Tight clothes and half her head shaved, sparkling gems curling up the delicate shell of her ear. She looks like one of the teenagers that fill his concert stadiums. He thinks of the way his chariot threatened to escape his grasp every morning. The oppressive heat of the sun beating down on him. The burns and the undercurrent of fear that one day he would lose his grip on the reins and plunge the world into darkness. Apollo leans his head on his sister's shoulder. The sun rises slower without him, but it rises just the same. No, not really. Hephaestus's workshop has evolved with the times, from a volcano base to a modern lab, but always a workshop bursting with creation. The Cyclopes are still his best assistants. Aphrodite steps over discarded parts and expertly walks around frantic Cyclopes carrying bubbling concoctions. Her dark hair is swept up in a bun, and she wears chunky glasses and a blood-red pantsuit that almost hides the fact that she is the most beautiful woman to walk the earth. I have a client. Try not to blow up the house. Again. Yes, dear, he says, but he doesn't look away from his soldering. She hadn't expected him to. His prosthetics are off and on the floor beside him. He's seated on a too-tall chair to compensate for the loss of height. She reaches out and carefully touches the corner of his eye. Crow's feet have started to work their way onto his face. They're getting old. It's the couple that's fighting because he wants kids and she doesn't want to carry any kids, but doesn't want to say that. It would probably be easier if I just told them to adopt and threw them out the window. Yes, dear, he repeats, a spark flying. A few land on her, but she doesn't burn, of course. She moves her hand up and pushes it through his hair. resists the urge to pull him from his work and abandon her own so they can make out at his work table. I love you. Aphrodite turns to leave, but Hephaestus grabs her wrist and pulls her back. He holds up a single copper lily. The edges of the petals still glowing with heat, it had taken to shape. He carefully slides the stem into her hair so it sits at the base of her bun. He raises her bottom lip with his thumb as he pulls his hand back to his side. Yes, dear. Demeter rages. She makes imprudent deals to control an earth that no longer falls under her domain. She enacts her revenge against the mortals in whatever way that she can. They have forgotten her, forgotten the earth, and in their ignorance they seek to destroy it. She shakes the bedrock, splits it open, but still they do not learn. As the temperature of the earth rises, so does her temper. The sea is not hers to command. Her power is of earth and of earth alone. Even now she gave more than could afford to lose to keep her grasp on it. But these mortals do not learn. Demeter goes to the sea and makes an inadvisable bargain. She goes to the crumbling remains of Olympus, makes an even worse one. Typhoons and hurricanes whip across the land. If they seek to destroy her, she will simply destroy them first. Hera sits on a pure white couch in an elegant mansion, smiling for the journalist seated across from her. What do you think is the most influential decision you ever made? He asks. If you could pinpoint the success of your business to one moment, what would it be? She tilts her head as the light of the camera flashes. Why, divorcing my husband, of course. Would that be your advice to young women, hoping to be as successful as you? To not get married? Hera thinks of thousands of years by Zeus' side, and how little it got her. She thinks of Hestia's men, and Artemis's women, of Hephaestus' love of Aphrodite, of the way Hades softened the sharpest of Persephone's edges. She says, do not get married to someone who makes you less than you are. If you are not a better person for being together than apart, then do not be together. It's as simple as that. Simple, but not easy. Leaving Zeus was the hardest thing she's ever done. Persephone isn't forced to spend half the year on the mortal earth anymore. She goes when she pleases, which isn't often. Sometimes she'll sit by Artemis's side while she brings a new life into the world, holds the warm, wriggly child first. She visits hospitals and makes the flowers bloom out of season, spends long hours sitting under the sun, feeling its warmth touch her face. Hades left his realm rarely before, even more rarely now. More people are being born than ever, meaning more people are dying than ever. The realm is massive, compromising of all the dead of several millennia. Hades and Hecate spend their days as always, desperately trying to expand the realm so that they don't all have to live on top of each other. Have you heard, she asks one day, seated on his desk and leaning across it so he can't work on the latest draft for another level of their realm. The gods are dead. He gives up on attempting to tug it out from underneath her. Are they? That's odd, none of them are here. Persephone doesn't bother to hide her smile. They haven't figured it out yet. Maybe they never will. But when death comes for them, as death does for all, it will be to Hades and Persephone's door they are brought. Hades himself will usher Gaia and Amphitrite into the underworld when the time comes. That time is not today. Darling, I do need to work on this. He ineffectively tugs on the map again. She pushes him back in the chair, climbing on top of him, pressing their foreheads together. No, don't. No, I don't, he agrees, and obligingly moves his head so Persephone can nibble at his neck. He manages a whole 30 seconds before going, I mean, I really do. Kitty said if I didn't have a plan by the time she leaves for the mortal realm tomorrow, I'll either have to wait until she gets back or do it myself. I really prefer to do neither, and Persephone just kisses him to shut up, twisting and pushing him through the helm so they land on their bed. I'll help you finish it later. Focus on me now. Hades doesn't answer, but he does flip them so he's above her, reaches below her skirt, so she'll take that as agreement. Hestia sits around. Oof. Sorry, don't know what came over right there. Hestia sits around a bonfire, watching a group of teenagers get drunk and dance around the flames. They'll never be younger than right now, never feel as much love for each other as they do right now. She's beside an old man who warms his hand from the fire coming from an abandoned trash can. She lies on a bed, so girl lights 24 candles as a surprise for when her lover gets home. She watches a young man make dinner for his boyfriend for the first time. Burn the chicken on both sides. They eat it together, anyway. She sits on the kitchen counter when a sister takes out a pie from the oven, made special for her little brother's birthday. She is there when a father takes the thermostat up high in a freezing dawn of morning, so it will be warm by the time his wife and children awaken. Most people don't have hearths anymore. There's warmth and love, and for Hestia, that is enough. As their names fade from existence, as his name is called less and less on the battlefields of mortal men, the more Ares sleeps. He falls asleep in 2 tall trees and on park benches. He sleeps in seedy motel rooms and naps in every one of Athena's libraries. He sleeps curled up on a chair in Aphrodite's office and on the floors of a lot of veteran resource centers. As fast as he can tell, that's the most they help any veteran. Still, his favorite place to sleep is the underworld. He goes knocking on Orpheus's door, who's always willing to play for him. Hades is here, Eurydice says. Would you like me to go get him? Ares shakes his head. Persephone is home. I wouldn't want to intrude. Eurydice and Orpheus share the same look of faint disapproval, but neither of them say anything, for which he is grateful. He lies in the soft grass of the garden Persephone made, and lets Orpheus's playing lull him to sleep. Later, he's woken by strong arms picking him up, holding him against a familiar chest. He doesn't even have to open his eyes to know who's holding him. I can go. Eons? His actions at odds with his words, so he pulls himself even closer to the warmth coming off the king of the underworld. No. Stay. Ares lets out a content sigh as Ares presses his lips to his forehead, and he's not great about touch, about people laying their hands on him, getting into his space. But Hades has always felt safe, felt like home. He stays. The gods are dead. Long live the gods. And I like this interpretation. That power doesn't necessarily wane. I mean, Demeter is still wrecking shop as a not-so-subtle metaphor for frickin' global warming, ruining the cycle of nature. God, anyone who's lived in the central U.S. last year might recall how late summer was. Not in starting and how long it lasted. It was still hot in October and early November. Ugh. That hopefully will not be a coming trend, especially if paired with this frickin' 80-90% humidity. Also in the central US with an early summer. Ugh. I just might have to change states if that keeps up being a trend here. Let's see, where to go from God's Dead? I guess we haven't read any of the stories with Ares, which might lead to some confusion of what exactly was going on in the underworld. Let's see. Oh, and it's also touched on Orpheus and Eurydice. I also like Athena and Medusa. Let's see. I've only got about 20 minutes left I'm only gonna read one. I'm gonna read the one with Ares, because I do like the interpretation Shana had for Ares. Let me just check. Oh, this is the first Ares story. Where is it? So we read the first four. It's maybe Hades an interlude? Because I know the first story is tied to Hades. It's not. Maybe it's just a story that is out of order when I read it. Maybe Hera and Ares. Is this the one I'm thinking of? Okay, I think this is it. So go ahead and read through this. Start prepping for the raid out. So first big sip. Zeus's mistress, Io, remains in her form of a cow, guarded by Hera's servant Argus, and Hera is content. She will remain in that form until her death. Hera hopes that lying with her husband was worth the sacrifice. Zeus won't speak to her, unwilling to admit the cow is actually his lover and ensure her death, equally unwilling to stand against his wife to try and rescue her. Hera has him just where she wants him, and it can't last. It never does. Morning, Cryshard. Oh yeah, that is unfortunate. Sorry you missed out on a chunk of the stream then, or at least struggle if you're having to do it by phone. But yeah, I'm just wrapping up my third and final hour, just reading some Retold myths by ShanaStoryteller. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this a little bit before we go to, I think it's also Ghoulie again for me. Let's see. Yeah, I'm reading into Ghoulie again, so. Let's see, where was I? She didn't enjoy what it does, there it is. Then Artemis comes to her, gold and fierce. She never flinches away from her queen, staring her in the face as if she is nothing more than another of her huntresses. If Hera did not hate her for being her husband's daughter, she thinks she might actually like the girl. Io has a destiny, she says. You must let her go. I don't care for destiny, Hera says idly, especially when that destiny involves getting with my husband's child. She is to give birth to a new line of kings. Artemis hisses, to be the wife of a death god, to be mother goddess of a whole new people. She's not meant for us. We must let her go. I am Hera, she says. I am queen. I must do nothing. Artemis growls, hand twitching for her bow, but Hera only raises an eyebrow. Let the girl try. There are few that can stand against her. The huntress is not among them. Artemis lets out a slow breath and says, Do it, my queen. I will grant you what it is you most desire. Some peace and quiet. A child. Let Io go. Let her fulfill her destiny as a goddess of the black land of the Nile. If you do that, I, patron goddess of childbirth, will personally use every ounce of power I possessed to ensure you conceive and deliver a child of Zeus. Hera's eyes narrow. Neither my power nor his has ever been able to achieve this. What makes you think you are any different? We all have our domains. Just as you cannot command the sea, just as your husband has no power over the art of weaving, so can I ensure a healthy child when you could not. She taps her fingers against the throne. They call her a mother goddess, though she's raised no children. Hephaestus may be her precious son, but he doesn't know that it was not her that threw him from Olympus. Very few people know that. She didn't raise him regardless. That honor belongs to Hecate. A child of her and Zeus. a child she can raise. I accept, she announces. You may take her, and Zeus may fulfill her destiny. She leans forward, brings the oppressive weight of her power to the fore, and lowers the pressure of the air until Artemis is left shivering. Know this, patron goddess of childbirth. If Io births the son of Zeus before I do, I will travel to the black land of the Nile and slay her and her children with my own 2 hands. Not even Hades will be able to put her back together again. Yes, my queen, Artemis says, unable to keep her teeth from chattering. Hera is true to her word. She allows Hermes to think he's tricked Argus and to steal Io away. She pretends to be outraged at the audacity of the pure white cow traveling to the sands of the Nile. Artemis is true to her word. Hera lies with Zeus like she has so many times before, and a child grows inside of her. One day she stands for her husband, brings his hand to the swell of her stomach. This is your child. Something almost like happiness steals across his face. She forgets sometimes that they hate each other only as much as they love each other. After so much time together, many would think it would be one or the other. They simply opted for both. Artemis is there during the birth, her easy confidence more comforting than Hera will ever admit. Delivering Hephaestus was easy compared to this. She screams and cries, and Hestia's hands on her shoulders are all that keeps her from collapsing and begging someone just cut the child from her. She doesn't think she can die in childbirth, not with Artemis between her legs. She wishes she'd thought to ask before this began. But she does not die. Her son is born just as healthy and beautiful as Hephaestus was. Well done, Artemis says softly, placing the squirming child in her arms. Zeus touches her hair and kisses his son's forehead. We shall call him Ares. Very well, she agrees, so tired her eyes struggle to stay open. She hands her son to Hestia, and finally allows sleep to take her. Sip before doing this next segment. Ares grows into the spitting image of his father. Same copper-red skin, same silky black hair. Her husband keeps it short, but her son lets his grow long. The minutes Hera spends every morning brushing his hair are among her favorite. He has an eager smile and a soft heart. Hera doesn't know where he got it, certainly not from her or Zeus. Demeter tolerates his bumbling after her, though any time Kor admits to meet her cousin Demeter's temper phrase. Poseidon allows Ares to explore the depths of the sea, with a minor sea god acting as his guide. Apollo plays for him, and Artemis teaches him to hunt. Zeus's lightning doesn't burn his son, and when storms rage, he takes Ares to the top of Olympus and teaches him to throw lightning bolts. Hera selfishly does not allow Ares to go to the underworld. She knows he would be safe there, that Hades would protect him as he protected Hephaestus, but that's precisely why she won't allow it. They got to raise one of her sons already. It pains her to share Ares with them now. He is happy and kind, kinder than anyone would expect a child of her womb to be. He must choose a domain, Zeus rumbles, watching Ares shoot arrows with perfect accuracy. He is a child still. Let him remain so, for a little longer. If he does not choose a domain, Zeus warns, one will choose him. We are gods. We must be gods of something. She flickers her gaze at him, and he scoots an inch away from her. He is a child, and for now, a child he will remain. We are not Demeter. We shall not thrust the responsibilities and power of a deity on a child who is not prepared for it. Zeus disapproves, but says nothing more. Her son will be god of something patient, something soft, god of lost children, of heartbroken suitors of forgiveness, somewhere his gentle heart will aid him instead of hurt him. She traded her happiness for power. She doesn't regret it, but Ares doesn't need to do the same. She's the most powerful goddess that still walks the earth, and he's her son, and he'll want for nothing she can provide. Ares is almost fully grown, long hair reaching his hips, even braided, and the strength of his limbs is such that he can keep up with Artemis on her most vigorous of hunts, that he can throw his father's lightning bolts halfway across the world. He's been to every place and met every god of the earth, sea, and sky, except for one. It's not hard to find the volcano. He's strong enough and old enough to take care of himself, and his mother does not worry when he says he's going to the earth. But he did not tell her where, precisely, on the earth he was going. He has strong legs. It's easy for him to climb to the top of the volcano. He's almost made it to the top when something grabs his shoulders, stilling him. He turns and stares into a large single eye. "Where are you going?" Cyclopes growls. "I'm looking for Hephaestus. He's my brother." "My master has many brothers," Cyclopes says. Ares shakes his head. He's not the product of his father's fling with a sprite or a mortal. "I am Ares, son of Zeus and Hera, just as Hephaestus is. I came here to meet my brother." The Cyclopes hesitates and asks, "What's your name?" "Rontis," answers, surprised. "Rontis. I just want to meet him. I've never met him before. I won't linger." There's a moment where Brontis looks conflicted. Ares tries to look as unassuming as possible. "Fine," he huffs, "but don't get angry at me if he dips you in lava." "That would be fun," says politely. Lightning doesn't burn him. So far, the only thing hot enough to cause him pain is Hestia's fire. He probably could go swimming in lava. Brontis looks at him as if he's slightly unhinged. Ares keeps smiling. There are more Cyclopes underneath, and bright, glittering machines that Ares can't even begin to wrap his mind around. "Who are you?" someone demands, and a hand grabs his wrist, yanks him away from a boiling vat of lava that he had been peering into. He looks up at a man taller and broader than he is. He has skin almost as dark as the obsidian of his volcano, but lighter eyes. They are the color of dark amber, of molasses. We have the same eyes," he says happily. Hephaestus releases him instantly. "You shouldn't be here." "Well, why not? The mortals talk of you. No one else will. But you're my brother, right?" "You shouldn't be here," he repeats. "Does Zeus know where you are?" He shrugs, taking a step closer. His brother takes a step back. He wonders if he'll have to treat Hephaestus like a spooked horse. "Father doesn't keep track of where I am. Mom knows I'm on Earth." Hephaestus flinches, small enough that he almost doesn't notice. "We have our eyes, you know." He can't stop staring at Hephaestus' skin. They do not work like mortals. Demeter, Hestia, Zeus, and Hera are all different shades despite coming from the same parents. But Ares looks so much like his father. Kor looks like Demeter. Yet Hephaestus looks nothing like their father. You can see their mother in him, in the eyes and shape of his jaw, even in how angry he is right now. He looks like Hera does when she's about to lose her temper, lips pressed into a thin line and the careful stillness of his shoulders. But "I wasn't trying to make you angry," Ares says plaintively. "I only wanted to say hello." Unlike their mother, Hephaestus lets out a deep breath, seemingly all his anger along with it. "I've been avoiding you." "Why? You don't even know me." Hephaestus kicks on lightly in the shin, the pretty golden copper of his metal legs catching his eye. "You have legs, and I do not." Hera did not throw you from Mount Olympus as she threw me. Ares looks hard at his brother's face. The stories say that his mother threw her son away for being ugly, but he seems just as handsome as any other god Ares has seen. His features are strong and chiseled, and he supposes they could have looked unattractive on a baby, but his mother loves him. Hera loves him with a ferocity only matched by her temper. She loves him with his most mischievous and irritable, loves him when a stray thunderbolt sets Demeter's hair on end, loves him when even Artemis and Apollo have grown tired of his antics, loves him when Athena can tolerate no more of his questions. He is her son, and so her love comes without conditions. He doesn't think Hera would have loved his brother any less just because of how he looked. He also knows if he tries to say that, it's likely Hephaestus will push him into a lava pit. That's not my fault, he says. If you don't want us to be brothers, can't we at least be friends? And Hephaestus's face softens. He looks like their mother too, then. Crosses his arms. Can't tell your parents. Our parents, he thinks but doesn't say. Obviously. Where did you get so many Cyclopes? Last remnants of his brother's stern facade shatters. He throws his head back and he laughs. Ares is very near maturity, more adult than child. His father constantly presses him to choose a domain. He usually quiets with one sharp glance from his wife, but the fact remains that it is time for Ares to take his place among the gods of the pantheon, to have temples in his name and worshippers like a proper deity. He doesn't really want any of that. He wants to continue hunting with Artemis, learning with Athena, building with Hephaestus. His brother lets him help out in his workshop sometimes, if he's very careful and does exactly as he's told. Otherwise, he sits on a table, legs swinging, and watches his brother work. Tells him about what he does in the time in between visits. Talks about their mother enough that Hephaestus doesn't flinch at her every mention, which Ares could only consider an improvement. Sometimes Brontes will stand beside him and they'll eat sweet buns together. Unfortunately, all things good and bad must come to an end. There are these two giants, Otis and Ephialtes, who grow tired of hearing of the golden boy of Olympus, who grows jealous of his kindness and his beauty. These two giants sneak into Mount Olympus in the middle of the night, sneak into Ares' room and kidnap him. They're not stupid enough to attempt to kill him. Instead, they stuff him into an urn and seal him inside. Ares rages and fights, uses every trick he can think of to break out of his prison, but none of them work. Stuck at the bottom of the urn and seething, he can't help but think that if he'd listened to his father and chosen a dominion, he might be strong enough to free himself. But he didn't, so he can't, and instead he waits, and waits, and waits. Days turn to weeks, turn to months. He knows they're looking for him. He knows his mother will tear apart the whole universe, attempting to find him, if nothing else. But what if they can't? What if he's stuck in this urn for the rest of eternity? In his darkest moments, his sorrow turns rage. He is a god, son of Hera and Zeus. How dare they do this to him? Then, one day, the urn opens. Hermes peers down into it, then his face splits into a grin. We've been looking for you. Reaches down, hauls Ares out. For a moment, all he can do is blink at the glaring sun. Then his vision clears and he sees they're in the midst of a battle. The giants are fighting against the gods, against his parents, the twins, his brother. It's bloody carnage, but he can't help but feel touched that all these people came looking for him. Almost everyone offered to help find you, he says. But Hera didn't want to draw too much attention to ourselves trying to sneak into their territory. No sooner has Hermes finished speaking than a giant barrels into his mother with sickening snap. Her shoulder slopes at a grotesque angle, but it hardly even slows her down. Hey, I have to help, he says, desperate urgency filling him. They came to help him, and now they're getting hurt. That's never something he'd wanted. Ares, wait! Hermes calls out as he goes hurtling toward the battle. He doesn't wait. Fighting on the ground can only do so much good. They're strong, but they're outnumbered 100 to 1. He darts to Artemis, twisting around the body she's throwing over her shoulder. I need your bow! Ares! What? Trust me, give me your bow. The giant comes running towards them. Artemis flips him over her shoulder while continuing to stare at Ares' confusion. He'd be impressed if he wasn't so worried. Artemis, please! She hands over her bow. She moves to give him her quiver of arrows as well, but he's already moving away from her. Next, it's to his father, who's hurtling lightning bolts towards a swarm of giants crowding him. They're deadly, but only so effective at close range. Grabs a sizzling lightning bolt right from Zeus's hand, the only being on the planet who could do that and survive. Keeps running. Get clear! He calls out over his shoulder. Everyone, move! He runs up past Hermes, needing to get to high ground for this to work. Get everyone off the battlefield, he says to Hermes. Now! Hermes pulls a face, but by the time he makes it to the top of the mountain, the gods have shaken off most of the giants, are far enough away he doesn't have to worry. He can do this. He's Ares, the son of Hera and Zeus. He's been trained in archery by the great huntress herself. He breathes in and strings his father's lightning bolt like an arrow. Pulls it back, breathes out, and lets the lightning bolt fly. It lands in the middle of the battlefield, full of confused giants. With a great clap of thunder and a burst of light, they are all gone. All that remains of the traitorous giants is a crater. The gods are approaching him, his mother at a limping gait that makes his chest ache. Zeus gets to him first, grins stretched wide as he grabs him by both his shoulders. My boy! That was magnificent! Thanks, he says. The smell of charred flesh is in the air and it makes his stomach roil. They kidnapped him. They stuffed him in an urn for over a year. They hurt his mom. That doesn't mean he enjoyed it. He never wants to do anything like that ever again. This was destiny, his father says, enthusiastically. And Ares has no idea what he's talking about. This is what you're meant to do, son. He stares. He hopes it's not. Other gods are still far behind. Artemis and Apollo each have one of his mother's arms slung over their shoulders and are helping her up the mountain. Hermes and Festus aren't far behind. He's never seen his father look so proud of him. There's a leaden pit in his stomach he can't explain. In honor of my son's great feast, Zeus booms, his voice carrying across the air, speaking with the voice of the king of the gods, so his words become law. So they spread to every corner of the world. I declare him Ares, god of war. Ares can't breathe. This isn't what he wanted. And that's when we're ending off, because Ghoulie said she is starting to get prepped. So I'm going to just... Where is... There we go. Don't need that. Open anymore. Thank you everyone who has been here for these story time. Let us make sure Ghoulie has gotten past. And before I send everyone in... Okay, yeah, it looks like... Yeah, she's gotten someone is in. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna copy, paste her name so I don't have to worry about spelling wrong. It's /Retold, right? Thank you everyone for being here. Go forth and enjoy what Ghoulie has going for you, fellas. And as always, take care of yourself so you can... Yeah, take care of yourself so you can better take care of others as well. We are a community. We are stronger together than we are ever by ourselves. So, until next time, see ya.